Jesus had to give up quite a lot. When you get nailed to the cross, you haven't got much option. Sorry, what's your problem?
If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just the two mics flicking through tomorrow's papers.
What are you doing in my shrubbery, you dirty little...
Nocturnal stirrings from the night garden of sporting news with Mike Ninky Nonk Graham and Mike Pinky Ponk Parry on Talk Sport. If you're up with a baby, you'll get it.
I take my shirt off in front of the kids and say, look at me, aren't I ugly? Aren't I fat and flabby? If you want to look like me, keep eating 4 packets of crisps a day, 2 chocolate bars, have a pizza after school, and you will look like me.
Yeah.
You worry too much about the time.
Yeah, no, I worry about it.
What's the name of the devil?
Lucifer.
Is it Burbledees?
No, not Burbledees, no. Begins with B, though.
Yeah, it does, yeah, Burbledum.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. It's time to say a very, very, very good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry, the proud owner of a new back tyre. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Mike.
How is the old jalopy?
This mocking tone to what...
Well, I'm sorry.
the point is...
I had to put up with your mocking of my jalopy for many a month, so I'm afraid you're going to have to take it in the neck.
If you have a high-spec, high-tech car, then it's more...
You got the wrong tyres.
It's more...
You got the wrong wheels.
Oh, so the experts who changed the tyre for me when it burst have put the wrong tyre on, have they?
No, you've got the wrong wheels. I told you yesterday, people have said the type of low-profile tyre that you have, which means that there's a very small amount of rubber between the rim and the road, is the wrong kind of tyre for driving around in the city. Well, that's why I keep getting punctured.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but I prefer to take note of what the technical experts at Mercedes, the world's biggest
you never go to Mercedes,
car company,
you
tell me.
You go to QuickFit because you're too cheap to go spend proper money.
No, very recently I had the car thoroughly serviced, very expensively.
And what did they discover? They discovered, that the guy at QuickFit who told you the tyre was fine actually had left a great big nail in it.
No.
You said they x-rayed it and found a great big nail. That's what you told me.
Yeah, but you see, you're confusing all sorts of dates.
Is that right?
That was 3 months before when I...
It wasn't.
It was. I know when I had my service. When I had my service, there was nothing wrong with the tyres.
Yes, but the guy had already told you...
The tyre problems I've had over the last couple of years, 7 times, are completely independent of any service I've had done on my car.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is the last time you went for a service...
You're smashing together
not
a
at
load
all.
of disjointed facts and trying to come up with some sort of
I'm just trying to work out
theory.
whether you're telling the truth or not. The point is that when you went to Mercedes, you just had a problem with the tyre. The guy at QuickFit had fixed it for you and said, don't worry, there's no need to replace the tyre, we'll just repair it. But when they did the X-ray, I remember very clearly you telling me they found a great big nail in it.
That nail somehow got into the tyre before I got to Mercedes, but it wasn't there the previous day when I'd left QuickFit. If the tyre would have been flat.
How was your mate at QuickFit anyway?
It wasn't there.
He wasn't there?
No, some other chap.
He's probably been fired.
It was some other chap, a young chap, who could not convert the pressure gauge on his air input device, whatever it's called.
Air input device?
The pump.
The pump?
Yeah, the air pump. to the figures. And so I drove away.
What, do you mean he was in metric or was he in imperial?
Yeah, something like that. I think his pump was in imperial and he had the metric. So I drove away with the new tyre on 290.
Right.
That's the back right.
Uh-huh.
But the back left was on 230.
230.
So I realised this was an imbalance. So I drove round the block and came back. And as I drove...
Did it drive okay or did it pull to the right?
Yeah, it drove okay, yeah. And I said, look, this can't be right. And he said, it says, I can't convert, And I said...
why can't he convert it? He's supposed to be a tyre expert.
Exactly. I said, well, look, I told you what you should do. Stick your pump into my other tyre on the passenger side. As
politely as possible.
Yes. And then register whatever it is on your gauge,
a good idea.
what the pressure is in that tyre.
Had he not thought of doing that?
No, and then make this tyre... Anyway, eventually we got there. Now it's absolutely right and perfect. So there's absolutely no problem at all.
Well, that's good. We don't want to spend all night talking about
No, we don't want to spend all night.
I'm just happy that you managed to get it sorted out.
I did manage to get it sorted out.
Well done.
I had a busy day.
Yeah.
Doing all sorts of other things.
Oh, yeah.
I have been investigating what procedures you have to go through and how practical it is in this country to be buried at sea. What's your problem?
Well, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
No.
I'll tell you what. I'll load your carcass into the rib.
No.
Up in Orwell Quay.
No.
I'll take it out beyond the duty-free
Well, you
area.
see, there you go.
Right,
Yeah.
and I'll just dump you overboard.
You see, as usual, your stupidity knows no bound. I mean, it's an incredibly
Why do you
complicated...
want to be buried at sea?
Well, it's just a thought I've had.
Really?
I've had. And one of the reasons is because where I live, which is down near the Isle of Wight, okay?
Yeah. Can you not throw yourself off the ferry?
No, you idiot. I'm talking about a formal giving up the body to the sea.
Yeah.
And the reason is, during the war, of course, my old fellow was a Royal Navy hero.
Well, not only was he a Royal Navy hero, but he was the purser. He was also a gunner.
It's true.
And
It's true.
not only that, but I think he won the George Cross for something, didn't he?
No, he didn't win the George Cross,
Tremendous.
but he left
what a
on
guy.
he left on the D-Day invasions.
Oh, yeah,
from,
he was on the D-Day invasions
from
as well.
a beach just below where my property is on the south coast. That's
he
why
was
I
in
bought
India
it
as
there.
well, wasn't he?
He called in on India because we had the Empire then. They had to refuel the ship.
Was that before or after the D-Day landings?
Oh, way before.
Was it?
D-Day landings were 44.
Ah.
But anyway, look, the thing is, the only place in this country where you can be buried at sea are in Newhaven off East Sussex. That's near you.
That's not far, yeah.
And the Needles off the Isle of Wight.
Well, down by sort of Harry's Rock and all that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, off the Isle of Wight. And the reason for that is that they are the only places which will not return the body to the shore. You see what I mean?
Right, but surely if you go far enough out, it's not an issue, is it?
No, it's well, if you want to be buried within British territorial waters, you see what I mean?
Yeah, but would you though?
Yeah, of course you would, yeah. Now, the only other place you can go and do it is, believe it or not, the other place that I'm planning to retire to, Tynemouth. Tynemouth off Northumberland.
Well, that's handy because you're going to retire up there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
when you finally peg out, you won't have far to be carried.
Well, isn't that amazing that the only two places...
Well, who's determined this, though?
The authorities.
Like Coast Guard or somebody?
Coast Guard and the people who look after, like, burials and things in this country, OK?
Funeral directors.
So, yeah, that's right.
I mean, could you walk into a funeral director's? I mean, I know that you wouldn't because you're frightened of them.
Yes.
But could you walk into one and say, where would you like to be buried? You say, I'd like to be buried at sea.
Yes.
Can they organise it then?
Yes, they can. But what they'd have to do is, because this is what I've been researching today, you would then have to contact a company called Britannia Shipping Company for Burial at Sea. Which is a company based in Devon. Okay. Because, of course, Devon's got a lot of, like, seashore and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, but that's no use to them if you can't actually put anybody in the water.
Eh?
In Devon? Well, you said there's no mention of Devon.
No, the boat has to leave Devon and go round to the Needles. There's a specific ship called the MVS East Sussex.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a special unit that carries out committals in conjunction with local undertakers.
This, I'm assuming, is you're talking about a body rather than a cremation, right?
Yeah, of course I am, yeah.
You're not talking about scattering ashes, because you can do that anywhere, right?
Oh, yeah. No, of course I'm talking...
Some people have had their ashes scattered. Yeah. Have they not banned it in some football stadiums? Because some people want their ashes scattered in football stadiums, and they now...
Too much of it.
They've stopped it now.
Too much of it. But listen, I'll just tell you briefly, because we've got much more important things to talk about.
It is St David's Day, by the way.
It's St
Wish
David's
you a
Day.
happy St David's Day.
Rabbits.
Don't say that. You see, you can't do it twice. You've already done it.
Yeah.
You've already done it, and so now you've jinxed it.
No, rabbits, happy St David's Day. Let me just finish this burial at sea issue, and then we can get on to the ridiculous nonsense of Roy Hodgson going to Leicester.
Yes.
Anyway, listen, if you want to be buried at sea, right, you've got to get a licence from the government.
Right.
It costs £175.
Of course.
Now, you'd need a doctor's note certifying that you are free from fever and infection.
Right.
I mean, you're dead.
Well, hang on.
But, yeah.
You're supposed to be dying, aren't you?
No, you are dead, but, I mean, your body mustn't be infected with, like, typhus or something like that.
Is this not at the time you're making this decision, though? Is that not what it's about? Not rather than the fact that you're free of disease?
Well, yeah, but, I mean, somebody, like... after you're dead, somebody's got to make sure you're not...
Well, I guess your death certificate will have what you died of, won't it?
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Now, you are responsible, this is before you die, for ensuring that the coffin is built to the correct specifications, OK?
Yeah.
It has to be made of solid softwood, and it must not contain any pollutants like plastic, lead, copper or zinc, OK?
Yes.
Now, this is the interesting bit, which I found fascinating, and this is what I've got to
Wouldn't
start...
they just drop you in a sheet like they did with Osama bin Laden?
No.
Because that's what they did with him, wasn't it?
I don't know. Did they?
Yeah, well, after they shot him in Pakistan, remember?
Yeah.
In the compound that he was in. Yeah. And then they flew him out with the special forces, put him on a ship, and then supposedly wrapped him in a sheet and chucked him in the sea.
I think he must have been weighted, to be honest. But anyway, look, it says here, to allow the coffin to sink, the coffin must have between 40 and 50 2-inch holes drilled through it, OK?
40 or 50?
40 to 50 2-inch holes have to be drilled in it.
So the water gets in?
That's right.
Yeah.
But also, this is the interesting bit, so I'm not sure how big a machine you need to carry this out.
Do they drill the holes before they put you in then, do you think?
Yeah, of course they do.
Do they?
Of course they do. It's like an aerated coffin, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, and I found this fascinating, they've also got to put in the base of the coffin 440 pounds of iron, steel or concrete.
What?
Yeah.
440 pounds?
Yes.
Who's going to lift that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You need a JCB digger, actually, to go through this process.
They can't put that in before they put you in the church, can they?
Yeah, they can.
Nobody can carry it.
Oh, I
Who's
see.
going to carry it?
Well, no, but no. When you're buried at sea, the service takes place on board the ship.
Oh, does it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
so everybody has to get on a ship?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Now, the coffin must be made from non-toxic, biodegradable materials.
Wood?
Yeah, that's right. It's got to be able to withstand any impact, and it must carry the deceased quickly to the seabed.
Right. Well, I think it will if it's got that many holes in it.
Well, that's right. And 440 pounds of concrete.
Of
concrete or lead. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, they just give you the old concrete shoes. It'd be easier, wouldn't it?
Do you know
less
what?
concrete.
440 pounds, by the way, is 220 bags of sugar, isn't it?
Well, roughly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah, that's right.
But that
Now
doesn't
then,
really mean anything. What it is the weight of two quite large men.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
Yeah.
Now, for
Same time, by the way.
for environmental reasons, you are not allowed to be embalmed if you want to be buried at sea. And the combined cost of that actual service, including
all the concrete.
Yeah, including all the concrete, that's right, yeah, costs you $3,000. Okay?
You can get B&Q to do it for less, I'm sure.
Well, maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting exercise.
Well, that's all very fascinating. But we've got to talk about Newcastle, who are now top of the championship.
Well, that's true,
We've got Warren Barton coming up, who's going to tell
true.
us how good he thinks they are.
That's true.
We're going to talk about Roy Hodgson going to Leicester, very possibly. And we've got to talk about Wayne Rooney going to Everton. You've been denying this for a long time, saying that Everton don't want him. Apparently that's not correct.
No, I haven't said that. I've said I'm not sure it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, you said it wouldn't happen. Anyway, we've got loads of football to talk about. We've also got Ask Porky coming up later on. If you want a replay of how to get buried at sea, it'll be on the podcast. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
That boy needs therapy.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. We're talking space a little bit later on in the show. You might be able to get buried up there as well in time to come.
Indeed.
A couple of tweets have come in. Thomas sent this in actually after you were on the sports bar.
Oh, yes.
He said, MG, has Porky been on the Vino tonight? He's talking some nonsense and the show hasn't even started yet.
What?
Bernie says, haven't we got enough junk at the bottom of the sea without sending Porky down there as well?
Hey.
Maxwell says, didn't Porky nearly bury everyone in sea when he belly flopped into that pool in Spain?
Yeah, it's a bit harsh.
And Ian says, imagine Porky buried at sea and washing up on the shore. It would be like a beached whale called Greenpeace now.
That's a bit harsh. Listen, all those Newcastle fans, many of them will still be on the way home.
Yes.
So what I want to say to you all you Newcastle fans, is that if you are on the way home and you want to give us a shout here at Talk Sport because of your magnificent victory tonight, and it truly was 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. I always thought you would nick it in the end, you know.
Is that why you put out the tweets before the game to say you could only see one winner, and that was Brighton?
Yeah, but what I was meaning there was, if you looked at the stats about Brighton's home form and Newcastle's sort of slightly wobbly away form of late, then the only outcome was going to be a Brighton victory. But having said that, of course, I had it in the back of my mind that Newcastle would nick this one, no problem at all.
Yeah, but funnily enough, you didn't actually say that.
What?
You didn't actually say that.
Well,
I mean, you could say you had it in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
You might as well say
Yeah.
you sent out a tweet after the game. You had a sneaky feeling that Newcastle would nick the result of Brighton tonight.
Yes.
Stoic resilience, very well-deserved victory.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
However, before the game,
Yeah.
you said this. I have to say, I think Newcastle are up against it tonight. I can only see a Brighton victory.
Well, that's what I mean, looking at the stats. But you see,
So you're basically covering both sides of the equation there, aren't you?
Well, I never deal with stats. I always deal in instincts, and my instincts told me I could. So if you Newcastle fans are still
You
coming
basically
home...
jinxed Brighton. A lot of Brighton fans are very upset with you, actually.
Well, then give us a call if you want. If you're still up and about, you Brighton fans, and you can't get to sleep because of the trauma, and you're a bit bladderated, but not too bladderated, give us a call, 08717 223344. And you Newcastle fans, I don't think some of you are going to get home until about 7:30 in the morning. I wonder if any Newcastle fan has left work tonight, started this morning by getting in a coach and going to Brighton for the game tonight, and is going home overnight to get home at 7:30 tomorrow morning, or this morning. going straight back to work.
Well, it's possible.
If possible.
Very possible.
Yeah.
It's a very long way to go. But
Yes.
we'll be talking to Warren Barton later on as well in
Yes.
this hour, because I need to find out how good Newcastle are going to be in the Premier League, because it looks like they are going to come up. And what do you make of what Rafa Benitez said the other day,
Yes.
which is actually he doesn't mind coming second? He's quite happy with that.
Well, I don't think it matters whether you come first or second, as long as you automatically go up. You get a trophy if you come in first, but if you're second, you go up into the Premiership, and that's the main prize.
Yeah.
What I would say is that if you Newcastle fans do come on, I will be reminding you that, for all your elation and joy about being top of the table, you're in the Championship. It's not the Premiership. So it's a bit of a mooted celebration, isn't it?
Well, no, but the point is it's still likely to be a great year for if you're a Newcastle fan. I mean, many Newcastle fans
for winning the Championship.
Yeah, of course, because if you win the Championship, yes, you get a trophy.
Doesn't that show how far the club's fallen? If they're so
happy
happy
but you are where you are.
To be winning second best.
No, but you are where you are, and if you go down to the next tier down, but you then come straight back up, having topped that particular division, then that's a great season, surely.
But Newcastle have become the modern-day yo-yo club.
Well, that's why I want to talk to Warren Barton about whether this time they can actually make it count.
That's right. They go down one season, they come straight back up. They spend 3 seasons struggling in the Premier League. They go down again, and then they come straight back up. That's yo-yoism. And there's nothing to celebrate in yo-yoism. You've got to be amongst the elite all the time to be able to hold your head up high and say, my club are but
surely, if you
the
were
real
a fan,
deal.
If you were a fan of Newcastle, you'd rather watch them beating clubs in the Championship than losing every week in the Premier League. Wouldn't
Never.
Why?
Because
you'd rather watch your team losing every week
No.
and feeling despair and feeling absolute dread when every Saturday they came around.
But as long as you're in the Premier League, you can still have hope that you'll be beating clubs every week in the Premier League. When you're in the Championship, you can't. Going to places like Rotherham is undignified.
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Belittling.
No, that's a ludicrous thing to say.
It is undignified and belittling
Incorrect.
to be going to places like
That's
Rotherham.
rubbish.
What other sort of tiny clubs are there in the Championship?
I mean, there's a lot of big clubs. There's Leeds, for example.
I know there's a lot of big clubs, but there's a lot of small clubs as well.
Aston Villa.
And it's undignified and belittling.
There's Burton Albion.
To track. I mean, can you imagine saying, to your mates at work, you can't wait for the weekend, Bonnie lad. Oh, yeah, where are we off to? Is it Old Trafford? Is it Anfield? Is it Goodison?
Yeah, but see, you're a football snob, along with everything else that you're a snob
off
about.
To Rotherham,
along with everything else you're a snob about. You're proving yourself. Do you mind not talking all the time, constantly, so that I can have a word?
Yeah.
You're a football snob as well as a snob about everything else.
No, I'm not.
Well, you're saying that basically anything that's not in the Premier League, that's not Old Trafford or Goodison Park or Anfield, is a humiliating place to go.
Absolutely.
Well, how in that case?
It is humiliating. I mean, Newcastle get the third biggest crowds in this country. So they shouldn't be going to Rotherham, should they?
No, they should be very proud of that.
With those sort of resources, they should never go down. So it's a complete failure of the Newcastle United system from start to finish. Of course it is.
I don't understand
what your point is. There's no way you can dress it up by saying, top of the Championship, down the Scotswood Road, to the Bladen Races. You don't go to the Bladen Races, mate, if you're second
I don't know why you're suddenly attacking people from Newcastle.
I'm not attacking.
Well,
I like Newcastle.
You are mocking people from Newcastle. You are mocking the club at the top of the Championship. You are saying that they should be ashamed of their club and they should be ashamed of some of the places they go.
I'm not.
For example, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yes.
What you would describe that as a small club?
No.
Would you describe Fulham as a small club?
Of course not.
Would you describe Derby as a small club?
No.
Would you describe Birmingham or Aston Villa or
keep
Ipswich?
Keep going down the list.
Or
Rotherham,
QPR,
I described them as a small club.
Nottingham Forest.
Of course not, but they're not elite clubs anymore because they're in the Championship,
Well, I
which
mean,
is
one day-
actually Division 2.
One day, other teams will go down into the Championship and then come straight back up and then maybe go back down again. I mean, would you call Bournemouth an elite club because they're in the Premier League?
Yes, I would, yes.
Why?
Because they're in the Premier League.
Would you call
in
Sunderland
England.
an elite club?
I would indeed.
But they cease to become an elite club when they go to the Championship.
Indeed.
Well, then that's a ridiculous measure.
No, it's not.
It is,
It's
because
not.
you're either an elite club or you're not.
Yeah, well, that depends who you're playing against and in which division you're
No, it
playing.
doesn't.
And if you're playing in the Premier League, you're an elite club. It's as simple as that.
No, I think
Can't
that's
you even figure that
absolute
out
nonsense.
for yourself?
Well, no, I think you're talking absolute
Look,
coleros.
hang on. Look, if you were...
You're saying that your position
Yes.
in whichever division you are in
Yes.
determines whether you are an elite club.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's rubbish.
I mean, we saw the fiasco of the
rubbish.
Oscars the other night. Nevertheless, everybody on that stage was in the elite end of the film business, right?
Well, I don't know if that's true, actually, because the winner of Best Film was
Yeah.
actually a very small independent company who would not consider themselves to be in the elite at all.
Catapulted to the elite by becoming
Well,
Oscar winners. Of course they were, right?
Maybe, but I mean, that doesn't really apply in the film business,
Now,
does
if you, for instance, looked at somebody like Vinnie Jones,
Yeah.
the idea that Vinnie Jones would ever even get to the same city that the Oscars are in, let alone the same
Vinnie
venue.
Jones has been in very, very high-grossing movies. So by your definition, he is an elite actor.
No,
he's an elite actor.
No, he's not elite actor.
Of course he is.
No, he stars in what you could only call grade B
Not
and
true.
C type movies.
He was in Gone in 60 Seconds, right, which was a massive franchise, made fortunes for all the people that were in it.
Yes.
And he was a very, well-regarded guy when he was in there. He was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, one of the greatest British films thought to be ever made.
But these are all second-rate compared to the true classics.
Compared to what?
That guy...
Compared to what? Top Gun?
What's that? Yeah, compared to
Top Gun
with Tom Cruise.
Top Gun is a great film because it did very well at the box office, right? Same as Gone in 60 Seconds.
It's not Tom Cruise.
It's not any better.
That other guy who's the hard man, who goes around bashing people up, he's a B movie actor.
Who are you talking about? Jason
Statham, yeah. And
well, he's a massively successful Hollywood actor. He is in the elite of Hollywood.
No, he's not.
Well, who do you think is in the elite then?
Well, people who've won Oscars and
so
starred
you
in
think only by winning an award
films.
in the film business you become elite?
Well, for instance...
So maybe only by winning a trophy in football do you become elite. Therefore, Newcastle winning the championship and a trophy will make them elite.
It's not much of a trophy, though.
But they're going into the Premier League, which makes them elite again, so they're double elite.
No, they're not. Winning a championship trophy is not much. Sean Penn, in my view...
Well, hang on. If they win the championship, they will go into the Premier League, which by your definition makes them elite.
They will become elite again, yeah.
I see.
Sean Penn was, in my view, a B-movie actor.
That's rubbish.
Hang on. Whose career was accelerated by the fact that he married Madonna.
Not true at all.
He then, however...
He was in The Falcon and the Snowman long before he ever met Madonna, which was one of the greatest films ever made.
Excuse me. He then worked at his craft, became a better actor...
I don't know what you're talking about.
...and ended up winning an Oscar. So he went from B-movie to elite. I will start calling Vinnie Jones elite when Vinnie Jones is prancing around on the stage at the Academy Awards clutching a statue.
So unless you've won a trophy or an award, you're not elite.
Well,
is what you're saying.
more or less, yeah.
So how can all these other teams like Bournemouth then be elite?
Because they're in the Premier League.
So just by being in the Premier League, they're elite?
Yes, that's a classification,
I see.
Definitely.
I think you've lost the plot
No,
tonight.
I haven't.
Unbelievable.
Most people agree with
David says this, Rotherham wouldn't want to go to a dump like Everton either. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't make anything of that because it's a ridiculous statement.
Matt says, I just think Porky dislikes South Yorkshire.
What?
I say the tweet says, I just think Porky dislikes South Yorkshire.
No, I don't. No, look, the Championship is full of good teams from Yorkshire, but not league teams. Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, Huddersfield, all come from Yorkshire and all in the Championship, OK?
Yeah.
Only one of them,
what's your point?
Well, only one of them will go up to become elite, and that will be Leeds United.
Well, two of them could. Huddersfield and Leeds could go
No,
up.
I doubt it very much indeed.
That doesn't mean it's not going to happen just because you doubt it.
The teams that go up will be Newcastle, Brighton, and my view from the playoffs will be Leeds United.
OK, well, there's your 3 picks if you wish to go and take that down to the betting shop.
It says here,
see how you get on.
There's tremendous interest in the discussion we had about burials at sea,
Yes.
as you can see from the explosion of information on
An
social
explosion of
networks,
information, yeah.
And it says here from...
The BS meter is very high tonight.
Hang on, some person called Coxie Loxie. It says, burials at sea, the reason bodies and body parts keep being washed up on the Isle of Wight beaches. Well, that can't be the case.
Well, it might be. Maybe they've got it wrong.
No, the coffins have to be lead-lined and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? They're weighed down with concrete. They never come back to the surface, and it's a specially designated area to make sure that, none of the deceased ever sort of surface
Yeah, but maybe
again.
it's being organised by the same people who lost all those records in the NHS. When people were not getting their records, they were locked in a warehouse.
That was bad news. Sir Francis Drake's body's never surfaced. He was buried in a lead-lined coffin somewhere near Barbados.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that in the Caribbean?
Yeah, it was.
Well, there's a lot of bodies buried in the Caribbean. We better not go there. No. We've got lots more to do. Warren Barton's coming up a little bit later on. Ask Porky as well. We've got absolutely loads of them. But if you want to try and get a good one in, by all means, tweet it at the 2 mics. This is TalkSport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
TalkSport.
I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It finally happened. Finally happened. Finally happened.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. We've been simulcast live on TalkSport and Talk Radio. Ben says this: I'm the lockkeeper at Eastbourne Harbour, from where the MVS East Sussex operates.
Yeah.
And he says you're welcome any time, Porkster. I don't know whether he means you're welcome to come and have a look.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whether he's happy to
drop me over
help
the side
you on your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's one from Will. He says, I've never more have I wanted Everton to go down just to annoy this judgmental buffoon.
No, it's not judgmental
He
at all.
used a different word, but I'm not going to read that one out.
And in fact, I'm slightly annoyed by a headline in one of tomorrow morning's newspapers which says, red and buried, why has it all gone wrong for Jurgen Klopp? I don't know why people are talking about Klopp. They didn't play last night, they played the night before. And then it says, Klopp flops, face shame of ending up below Everton.
Well, there is that shame, isn't there?
No shame of ending up below Everton, mate. Everton are on the march.
Well, yeah, but there is, considering the fact that Liverpool were at the top of the league at one point. And they have fallen very far, very fast.
I was about to say, that's a distant memory.
Well, not really. I mean, it's this year's form that has hurt them. I mean, they were doing pretty well in 2016.
Yeah,
it's 2017 that's hurt them, isn't it?
It's their defence, isn't it? They don't have any strong defence.
I mean, they seem to have lost the plot all round.
They seem to. Now, listen, we should be talking about old Roy Hodgson.
We should.
Because
let me just read you a couple more tweets before we get to that. Here's one from Davies. He says, it could be understandable if you take Rotherham off your touring map. If this was Russia, Porky would be missing. I'm not sure what that means. Tell Porky to watch his back, says James. If he ever comes to Rotherham, add it to his list, MG. Vinnie Jones, Millwall, now Rotherham. Well, you're forgetting the Albanians. These are all the possible suspects who've been nailing nails into your tyre.
Yeah, well, that's it's a criminal offence. I've got nothing against Rotherham. I've never been there because there's no reason to go to Rotherham. I'd never want to go to Rotherham, really.
Rotherham, no. I don't think I've been there either.
I have no malice towards them.
Everton never played them in the FA Cup?
Not in my memory, no. Played Scunthorpe, which is quite close by. Now then, Roy's Fox's talks. Hodgson versus caretaker Craig. I mean, I'm reading a report here which says that Leicester are interested. It says, Roy Hodgson has been sounded out about a sensational return to management at Leicester. The ex-England head coach held talks with Fox's bosses before Monday's 3-1 win over Liverpool and would have been back in the dugout had they not won. Now, that's a very strong statement.
That is a strong statement, because my understanding of the story earlier on today, or yesterday I should say, was that Roy Hodgson was sort of putting it about that he would like to be the next manager of Leicester.
That's how I read it.
And everything appeared to all come from his sort of camp, if you like.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
But this is taking it on a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's taking it on a bit. And also, I like the look of old Shakespeare. I've got a similar report here. Danny Simpson says Leicester should give the manager's job to Craig Shakespeare on a permanent basis. Shakespeare, number 2 to sack boss Claudio Ranieri, stepped into the breach and helped inspire Monday's 3-1 win over Liverpool. I like the cut of his jib, so to speak, old Shakespeare. You know, he seems to think that he's...
well, it's a great name, isn't it?
And it's a brilliant name. I love the name.
And I mean, given the Richard III sort of connection with Leicester, to now have a manager called Shakespeare,
I know.
It really is quite unusual, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely brilliant. But
you hadn't thought of that, had you?
Yes, I had, because we talked about Horatio Nelson last night.
What's that got to do with Shakespeare?
Because that's why we talked about Horatio Nelson. Has your brain gone?
Why?
Because the minute we mentioned Shakespeare, I said it's a brilliant name. I was thinking of changing mine to Horatio Nelson.
What's that got to do with Richard III?
Have you gone off your rocker?
No. There's only one of us that's going off your rocker here.
You've just connected Richard III to Shakespeare.
Yes, because Shakespeare wrote a play about Richard III.
That's right.
Yes, he did not write a play about Horatio Nelson.
Shakespeare is the name of the Leicester caretaker manager.
What's his first name?
Hey?
What's his first name?
What does that matter?
Well, see who's off their rocker.
No, Shakespeare.
His first name is Craig.
Yeah, Shakespeare's the only bit that matters. And I said, what a brilliant name to have a British hero's moniker, the same as yours. And I said, one of these days I might change my name to Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with what I just said.
It's got everything to do with it.
I said you didn't see the connection between Richard III and Shakespeare.
I did, and you said a great name. You talk yourself around in circles.
No, I'm not.
Let's get back to the Hodgson situation.
Yes, let's get back to it.
Who in their right mind could possibly endorse an appointment of Roy Hodgson to Leicester? To start off with, Roy Hodgson as a catalogue of recent failure, which should really have ended his managerial career.
Well, what would you call his last success, for example? I suppose, because you wouldn't call it getting to the Euros or getting to the World Cup, would you?
You would call it getting to the final of the Europa League with Fulham.
And losing it.
So
that's his greatest success.
That's his greatest success at club level in this country, OK?
Yeah.
But that's a long time ago. Roy Hodgson is too old now to mix it in the Premier League.
He was at West Brom for a while, wasn't he?
He was at West Brom for a while.
Where he did OK. But I mean,
well, he wasn't good enough to stay at Liverpool more than about 8 months.
That's true.
So
they didn't like him there, did they?
So if he's not good enough for Liverpool, why is he good enough for the Premier League champions Leicester?
He's too old, anyway.
He's too old. He was appalling as the national manager over 8 years, which is an awful long time to be able to stick your,
Well, he failed spectacularly, did he not?
Your name
in the Euros, right?
Oh,
having lost to Iceland, he failed even more spectacularly in Brazil.
Disaster.
In Brazil, where he didn't win a game.
So about 6 years, actually, wasn't it? But it was an absolute disaster, and part of his disaster was the pomposity of telling everybody, I'm a football man. You must respect me.
Yeah.
I'm a professor of football.
That's right.
I know best. Nobody knows as much as I do.
Yeah.
You will listen to me, and I will tell the players how to play. I mean, you are no longer, I'm afraid, relevant in the world of football, Mr. Hodgson.
No, I agree.
It's left you behind, and it's ludicrous and preposterous for you to even think about becoming the Leicester boss.
Well, if the
and
Thai
it's even
owners,
more preposterous for the Leicester management to even consider
If the Thai owners of Leicester think that he is a good guy to have on board because of his pedigree, because of what he did in Switzerland, because of what he did in Scandinavia, because he was the national coach of England and all of that, then they may well be the sort of people that can be easily, sort of blown over by that kind of reputation.
Yeah.
But as you say, quite rightly, he has not achieved anything really in football at all. I mean, I'm sick to death of these people that say, oh, yeah, but it wasn't for Roy Hodgson. Switzerland wouldn't be the force that they are in international football.
Rubbish.
And you go, really?
That was about 30 years ago.
Well, they're not actually, anyway.
No, exactly.
Now, a couple of tweets here. One from Kai, who says, by Porky's definition, Christopher Nolan, Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick aren't or were never elite. 0 Oscars between them.
Yes, but in those days, the Oscars were like a literally 90-minute ceremony, and they just gave out about 6 Oscars. Now they give out dozens, literally.
Well, then, therefore, it's less likely that you're part of the elite if you get one, isn't it?
No, not at all.
So the fact that they've made more awards available means that the elite has risen to a larger number, therefore no longer elite.
Well, the film industry is much more massive than it was in those days. In those days, they didn't have straight-to-DVD films, did they? That also in millions, even if they weren't
still maintaining
successful in the cinema.
This ludicrous idea that Alfred Hitchcock, because he never won an Oscar, is somehow not part of the elite of the film business.
Alfred Hitchcock's very much part of the elite.
I see. Okay.
Very much part.
By the way, I've just been given some information on Rotherham.
Yes.
Apparently, they beat Everton in 1992, 1-0 in the League Cup.
Did they?
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much indeed.
So just
I sometimes wipe those sort of results from my mind.
That's why you can't remember it, obviously. Here's one from Mark. It says, imagine if Vinnie Jones came out of retirement and became an Oscar-winning Premier League footballer. Porky would have a meltdown.
No, I wouldn't have a meltdown at all. I'd say congratulations and well done. When you do it, I'll congratulate you for it, but you haven't done it.
I seem to remember when you were abusing him earlier on in the year, he sent a tweet out about you saying, is that idiot still on the radio?
Yes, he did, yes. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind if people have an opinion about me. I have an opinion about them. That's called free speech.
Tom says this. Hodgson did an interview on the pitch side at half-time at Baggy's Bournemouth match and said he will be back in football very, very soon.
Who said that?
Somebody who's tweeted it in.
So, no, sorry, who said he'd be back in football soon?
He did.
Roy Hodgson?
Yes.
Really?
He did an interview on a pitch at the West Brom Bournemouth game.
How recently is that?
Well, that was this weekend, wasn't it?
Was it last weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's. I think that's deluded, and I think that.
No, but he's got a very high opinion of himself, Roy Hodgson.
A huge.
Don't forget when he failed so miserably in the Euros after the Iceland defeat.
Yes.
And he had to be dragged kicking and screaming into that press conference where he said, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know why I'm here.
As if he had nothing to answer for.
That's right, yeah.
For the massive amount of money that he'd taken out of the FA.
And you talk massive. You're absolutely right. You're talking about, what was it, 14 million or something like that? Yeah. Incredible.
It is incredible.
It's just incredible to me that he's even under consideration for any position in football. He should have gone with dignity and just retired and hoped, against hope, that the footballing public of this country would forget his appalling his appalling record as international manager.
Forget about what
doesn't exist.
Forget about what people said about football's lost its soul when Leicester fired Claudio Ranieri. If they hire Roy Hodgson, he'll have lost his brain,
lost his marbles. I totally agree with that.
How about this from Mac? Mac, rather. He says, "I'd rather be a yo-yo club like Newcastle than a mid-table Premier League cannon-fodder club with delusions of grandeur like Porky's mob."
Well, I'm sorry, mate, but as my team have never been relegated in my lifetime, I can only say to you, I have no idea what it's like to be a yo-yo team, nor do I know what it's like to travel to Rotherham to play an away team, nor do I know what it's like to look at the league tables on a Sunday morning in the back pages of the newspapers and find my team missing from the Premier League lineup.
Yes, well, I mean, nevertheless, it's a very, very snobbish point of view that you've adopted, and I'm surprised that people are not more upset with you, to be honest.
Not at all. Now, listen.
Matt says, I think Porky's been huffing up the free air down at QuickFit. He's definitely on the light-headed side tonight.
Yeah. Well, no, I haven't. Now, I'm going to get very serious for just a couple of minutes, please.
We've only got a couple of minutes. We've got to talk to Warren Barton.
I know we have, so that's why I want to get serious before we get this out of the way. I just want to read this to you. Fleet Street legend Chris Buckland died yesterday after a long battle with cancer, aged 73. I want to express my deep regrets and my condolences to his family. Chris was a great colleague to myself at the Express, and I think to you when you worked in America, yeah?
Certainly, yeah. And in fact, he was still at the Express when I came back to work for them in England as well. So, yeah, he was a fine man. Yeah. Very amusing, very funny, very waspish, good column. Yeah. And I hadn't heard from him for a long time, actually. I wasn't aware that he was ill.
Well, I wasn't aware that he was ill, but I was aware that he had an outstanding record as a journalist in Fleet Street. You will be missed, Chris, and rest in peace, my boy.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. That's very kind of you.
Indeed.
Very unusual. You have something good to say about somebody who's passed away.
Not at all.
Anyway, coming up next, we're going to talk Newcastle with Warren Barton. Are they good enough to remain in the Premier League if, as it now looks likely, they're going to come up?
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Slipping down slowly, slipping down sideways, I think I'll sign off the door. 'Cause the fog on the town is all mine, all mine. The fog on the town is all mine. The fog on the town is all mine, all mine. The fog on the town is all mine.
Newcastle back on top at the of the Championship, and of course they're heading for the Premier League by very much the looks of it. Rafa Benitez has said he doesn't mind if he comes first or second.
Yeah.
Porky says that they're a yo-yo club. We're going to talk to Warren Barton, now former Newcastle player, of course, to see whether this time when they come up they can stay there. Warren, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah,
very well
not bad at all.
indeed, Warren.
The big question, I suppose, is how good are Newcastle, and how can they survive and not just be a club that comes up and keeps going back down?
Well, I think twofold. I think he's brought the players in when they got relegated to get them back up. And realistically, probably 60-70% of them players will leave. Mike Ashley said he will back him once he gets up again, and it's going to need a lot of money. But you know when you get into the Premier League, you're going to have that. We've got a proven manager that can go up into that league. So it's not as if you're taking a new coach that's only managing the Championship or managing the ball. This fella's won the Champions League, so he understands what he's doing. So from that point of view, first and foremost, let's get promotion. And I believe with Rafa, whether it's first or second, I don't really care. But I think the Wolves result was a big one when the pressure was on. Sorry, the Aston Villa result was a big one when the pressure was on. And obviously this one coming in the dying moments and getting a goal, that just gives you that extra momentum and lift that may be enough now to carry you over. But Huddersfield are a dangerous team. They're on the heels of Brighton that are doing an excellent job. But I just think with the money that Ashley will give him, Rafa Benitez with the experience and the players that he'll know and he'll get in, and he'll get rid of, as I said, 50-60% of the players that have got him up there. He's not naive enough to say, I'm going to stick with you, you're great. He knows that the first season is to stay up, and then when you go from there, you can hopefully start building. But we've got one step at a time, as they say.
Well, Warren, I am impressed by your confidence that Mr. Ashley will provide the funds that are needed to stay in the Premier League and, in fact, make an impression on the Premier League. But that didn't happen last time. I mean, the last time they went down, I remember Mike Ashley saying, I've made a mistake here, I've done my money, i.e., he bought the club and they were devalued by going down, and he pledged it would never happen again. But it happened again. So how do you know this time he's going to be any different?
But I think, first and foremost, when I was there in the summer, there's a different feeling of when they've had managers there before. I think Mike Ashley's got confidence in Rafa Benitez.
Yep.
And he was desperate to keep him when they went down. So I think, first and foremost, he's got his respect and he's got faith in him. Rather than the other coaches that he had, it was sort of, I'm not sure we're going on when. But to be fair to Mike, he's always given the TV money. Whoever the coach was, he's given the team, maybe not money out of his own pocket, and he does run it like a business. So I understand that. He's not going to do like Man City or Chelsea and give them 50, 60, 100% more than what they're going to get. But he'd give them the TV money. And we all know, fellas, that's a lot of money to go and spend on players, whether it's a free agent, look at someone like Zlatan, or you go and get 5 or 6 or 7 good players that you're going to pay them good salaries. So I do agree with you. I don't think he's going to go crazy. I think he is still looking. If the right opportunity come along, he might still get rid of it. But he's always given, even these coaches that he wasn't sure at, he's always given them the TV money.
Yeah, OK. And you're saying the TV money now is so enormous that no manager of Rafa's quality should fail when they've got 100 million quid to spend in the transfer market.
If surviving is not failing, I'll take that. I'm not saying he's going to go in there and win the league, but with 100 million, someone like Rafa and the context that he's got, he should be able to keep that club going. I think me and you could be able to do that, so we've got a rough idea.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Mind you, the problem is, Warren, is it not, that the bigger clubs at the top of the league have just kind of pushed everything up a little bit further. So, you know, in the old time-honoured phrase, 100 million ain't what it used to be. Do you know what I mean? Because, I mean, they'll be spending probably double that, or maybe even triple that.
Yeah, but for Newcastle's point of view, you don't start thinking about Chelsea and Liverpool and Man United. We're a million miles from it. We've got to get out of this league first. So when you do get into the Premier League, and if you do get into it, you start looking at the bottom half of the 9 teams that you're going to be battling against. That's where your first profile should be. That's what you're looking at first. So you can't say, I'm going to go in there, right, I'm going to compete with Chelsea, I'm going to compete and do a Leicester, because that doesn't always happen. It's not going to happen in our lifetime, never again. But what you do as a budget in a company, you say, right, who finished bottom 9? What's their budget, the likes of Swansea or Bournemouth? That's where we're going to compete. And if we get onto a good run and get confidence and get momentum, we might end up doing a West Brom. We might end up doing what maybe Southampton have done in the past, them type of teams. So first and foremost, take stock of what you got and what you are. Because although you get 52,000 fans going through there, and we know about the history, tradition, etc., you're going into a Premier League that's the toughest league in the world, and you've got to manage that you stay in that bottom half of the league and make sure you survive. If you get on a great run and finish up 8th, 9th, well, of course you'll take that. But at the moment, don't worry about Man United and City, because, as I said, you're a million miles away from them.
Sure. No, I'm just thinking in terms of some of the players that you'll be able to buy, and the fact that you know some of those Zlatan-type players and maybe match-winning players will not be available for that kind of money because they'll all be being snapped up at the other end of the league.
Yeah, but that's where Rafa's, goes around and gets his players. You've only got to look where Mahrez come from. All right, he's not had the best of the season, but you pick that they are. If people go and do their homework and people go out there and recruit and look, of course, the big names players are going to get picked up. But there are some good players. Conte, no one ever heard of him before he went to Leicester, and now all of a sudden he's arguably one of the best players in the Premier League. So if people go and do their homework and go and look, which they should be doing, these people that are recruiting players and looking at players and maybe young players coming through, if you look at them, they're the ones that you can go and get and go. And then if you need to go and get a real superstar, but once you bridge that gap, then you go and do that. But where your market is, you should be looking at them type of players, that 6 or 7 of them, and then you can end up having a good season.
You could. Warren, just moving on a bit, mate, you may not be aware of this being over where you are, but the speculation about Roy Hodgson perhaps becoming the next manager of Leicester City is growing in this country, and I find it preposterous because Roy Hodgson's last incursion into football was a disaster as England manager. If you were a player and you were a member of a squad that was the Premier League champions, wouldn't you want somebody a bit more qualified to tell you how to play football than Roy Hodgson?
I think qualified is a bit harsh, my friend. I understand where you're coming from. It didn't end well, like with Steve McClaren has. But don't forget, he has got a good pedigree in the terms of club management.
Has he?
Where he's done.
Has he?
But,
where?
Yeah, I think Inter Milan he did well. Fulham he's done well. So I think there's 2 teams that jump to mind where he's done reasonable. But England, I know, was a disaster.
Yeah.
Players have to take responsibility. But Roy was the manager, and he will do. But I think by and large, people will respect him. If you're asking me if I'm a Leicester player, would I want Roy Hodgson? No, I want something different. I want someone that's going to give me a spark and rather than churning it round. But that doesn't say I don't respect Roy Hodgson of what he's done and what he's achieved and what his experience has got. Maybe a technical director, but someone in this position you need that's going to give you a spark and give you a life. But I know, Brian. But
isn't that the problem with the football business, though, Warren? That everybody in the football business talks very nicely about Roy Hodgson because they don't want to be mean to him, but he was awful at the England job. I mean, you have to admit that, surely.
Yeah, I did. I said it was awful. It was a disaster, but I do respect him. I can't. That's the.
But how can you respect somebody who's awful at their job?
No, I respect him for what he did in the club level. What he did for England, I don't respect him for that because I think he got let down by other people rather than just Roy. So there's another argument that we can talk about: coaching staff, players, etc. So I think there's other arguments, but as a club coach and as a human being. Then I do respect him for that. So in the football terms of what I've heard about him as a coach, whenever I've been in his company, I've got respect for him. What he did for England, no, because that was his last job and it was a disaster. So that's where I stand with that. But there are coaches that are not very well liked, not very well get on, but are good coaches and get on with it. And that's the different people that we have.
Yeah, that's right. Talking about coaches as well.
Like me and you, my friend.
Absolutely. Talking about coaches, Warren, what do you think's happening at Liverpool?
This is a big test for him now. I think the snarling, the clapping, the jumping and jumping around has died now. He's maybe took this group of players as far as he possibly could.
Yeah.
Definitely should have gone in the transfer market. I think he needs to build. He's got a big summer. Would I get rid of him? No, because I still think he's a very good coach. I do like his philosophy of the game. I do like the way he wants young players. So with Klopp, but this is a test. Pep had it earlier. Mourinho when it first comes. So he's not alienating to that. He should be now being under a bit of, what he is, under pressure and being scrutinised. But I think taking stock, he's took this group of players as far as he could. He needs, if they're going to compete with Liverpool, they are a club that need to go and spend big rather than just the TV money and really go big and get 2 or 3 superstars back into that club, because they can slowly drift away to be mid-table.
There are stories sort of beginning to circulate in Liverpool now that the club might actually be sold by the Fenway Sports Group, because they'll make a quick profit on it. They're not particularly keen on the way things are going. Walk away from the problems. I mean, are you hearing anything like that on your side of the pond?
No, definitely not from that side. With baseball season starting up with the Reds, there's no hint of them having to sell the money. So anything that I've heard regarding Major League Baseball or anything like that on the sports side, I've not heard that they're looking to get out of it. They're very much committed. I think when you do talk of sports franchises, of how they was with the Red Sox, they've been committed from day one, and they're not one of these franchises or ownership that are going to walk away. Even when they've had the tough times at Boston, they stuck by them. So it would surprise me if they jumped out. But fellas, if the money's coming from China or Russia, wherever it is, and it's business. You just said it there, Mike, and that's what's sad about the game now. With Ranieri leaving, the soul's gone out of it. It is about a business. And I was speaking to Henry Winter about it, about when I was playing and the times. You don't want to reminisce about that, but it was good times. We did our job, whether good or bad, and we communicated with the media, we communicated with fans. But the soul's been ripped out because there's so much money in it. But then on the other side, the TV gives people jobs, it gives people in the media. So it's a crossroads now. Do you want the money? Do you want the fame? Do you want this? But there is a sacrifice. That it is a business, and whether that's lower league or whether that's the Premier League, that's the life we live in. And
looking in the Championship, you see plenty of examples of how the business has hurt them, right? Because they get down into the Championship, they don't come back up. Somebody like Leeds might have an opportunity this year to get back up into the Premier League, into what Porky calls the elite level. But there's no guarantee that they'll stay there either. And looking at the bottom of the division at the moment, Sunderland look like they're pretty much dead and buried, don't they?
Yeah, also, how long has it been since Leeds have been in the Premier League? It seems a lifetime, doesn't it? Yeah. And when they was one of the forces, and they've took them so long to recover. My old club, Derby, went down. It took them a long time to try and get in there. But yeah, I think Sunderland are struggling. I think Bournemouth have to be careful, because there's always someone that gets dragged into it and pulled down. I hate it for Eddie. I think he's an excellent coach. But the pressure's on there because quality it normally comes to the top. Sam will be fighting at tooth and nail right the way through. Swansea on a bit of fellas, it could be 2 of 4 that can go down, and I think Leicester being one of them, because all that momentum that they've got at Liverpool, you've got to keep that going. Because I know when I went to Derby, we won the first couple of games, and all of a sudden we hit a wall and lost 4 on the spin, and then all of a sudden you're in a relegation battle again. So they have to be careful, and the pressure starts mounting, and they've made the sacrifice to get rid of it. But Sunderland do look, because they haven't got a score. They only rely so much on Jermaine to get him out of trouble, and he can't keep doing that on his own.
Sure, no, exactly right.
Yeah.
And what do you think about Wayne Rooney finally, Warren? Because there's a lot of talk that he may be on the radar for Ronald Koeman, who might want him to come back to Everton. Jose Mourinho doesn't seem to be particularly keen to put him in anything like a starting lineup now or next season. He said he doesn't want to go to China. Some people are saying he should come to MLS. What do you think he should do?
For him, I would say in the Premier League. I still think the money that was in China, if they are offering £30 million a year, then you would have to seriously think about that. Does he need the money? No, but 30 million, 60 million can change not his life, but his kid's life and forward and onwards from there. So that's something money does talk at that time, but he's still good enough, I think, for the Premier League. I think he would suit being in the Premier League still. MLS, like him out here. A lot of people, obviously, the name, we were talking about with Lexi Lallis about where would he go, where would he fit, but he's only going to get the likes of 3, 4, 5 million. He's not going to get 30 million. And so would he want to change his life to come on MLS when he can maybe go to Everton, stay there, or even a West Brom and play in the Premier League? Because I know Wayne just wants to play, and he wants to play in the Premier League. So I don't think it's anything about money But you do have to consider when someone offers you £60 million for 2 years, would you go and take it?
I think you absolutely do. Warren, thank you very much indeed. We're out of
Thanks,
time,
Warren.
unfortunately. This is Talk
Great
Sport.
to hear from you.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Coming up, of course, it's Porky Vision tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, some people have said we hope that you don't get stuck into a broad church because many people, including me, actually, haven't watched it
Well,
yet.
that's their problem.
Well, it's not my
That's their
problem.
problem. It's not my problem.
Well,
I'm a
it's my
TV
problem.
review. I bring you right up to
Yeah,
date,
but I don't
okay?
want you to tell me what happens, though. Please, because I haven't seen it.
Well, you can see it tomorrow.
No, I don't want to see it tomorrow. I'm going to watch it on Friday.
No, watch it today.
No, I
What's
can't.
today? Wednesday.
No, I can't watch
and
it
have a
today.
look at it before
I can't.
the review.
No.
Well, I'm sorry,
I
but
can't.
there are millions of people out there
I've got to watch it on Friday.
who depend on my review.
I've already made that decision. That's going to be what happens.
Now,
And then,
listen.
of course, we also have to work out what the Porky quiz should be.
Yes.
Preferably before the end of this show.
Do you know, somebody actually sent me this fantastic tweet saying they so love to see me on video, particularly in the Porky quiz.
Yes, they do. They did enjoy as well last night's Postman Pork.
Yeah, they did
where
indeed,
you
yes.
thought you were getting a Gucci watch,
Yes.
and it turned out to be just a crappy old Pierre Cardin sort of blue-faced
And by the way,
load of old rubbish.
By the way, the person purporting to have played
I think his
that
name was
sort of
Dave,
practical-
wasn't it?
Was it Dave?
I think so.
Whatever his name was, put out on tweet today, ha ha, Porky out.
Yeah.
It didn't catch me out at all, mate. Filth like that goes in the bin immediately, okay?
What's
So,
a Pierre Cardin watch? What do you mean filth?
well, it's filth.
That's your favourite designer.
No, it's not. I buy a few Pierre Cardin shirts occasionally.
Is that a Pierre Cardin shirt?
No, it's not, no.
Who made that one?
This one was made by Armani. No, Giorgio. Now, listen.
O'Malley, you mean?
Yeah.
Not Armani.
Now, listen, we've
I went
already...
to school with a guy called John O'Malley.
John O'Malley, that wasn't him. Now, we've already established that, of course, it's March the 1st.
We certainly have established that.
So we've
and
had the
indeed,
rabbits thing.
we've done the rabbits thing,
We've
and we've also
also
said Happy
established-
St David's Day.
Exactly, St
Yeah.
David's Day. Now, there's one other thing that we haven't covered,
Oh,
which you are going to have to answer to.
And what's that?
It is the start of Lent.
Yes, it is the start of Lent.
And
Quite right, because
a-
it was Pancake Tuesday, Shrove
Exactly.
Tuesday, as it's properly
Did you have
known.
any pancakes?
I didn't actually,
No, I didn't either. But I got a pancake mix, but I didn't have time to do it. I was very
'cause
busy today.
you said you were going to do that.
I was sorting out some,
Paperwork.
highfalutin financial situations
Really?
involving mortgages and all that kind of stuff.
Mortgages?
Yeah.
Well, how many mortgages have you got?
Well, I can't go into all that. It's a very complicated business of trying
Well, roughly.
Well, we're trying to restructure a load of stuff and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, anyway.
What, you and your
my financial
collection
advisors.
of slum landlords?
No, my financial advisors. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
and I had to deal with all that whilst I was dealing with a car with a nail in the tyre. I mean, it was quite a stressful day
Why
for
don't
me.
you go and hang out with your mate, the former BHS head, Sir Philip Green,
Well, hang on,
who's
we're
reached into his back pocket and
Yeah.
managed to pay 363 million quid back into a pension fund?
We'll get on to him in a minute. I want to know what you're going to give up for Lent. It's
I'm not
the
gonna give
start
up
of
anything
Lent.
for
Why?
Because I don't give up things for Lent
What
anymore.
about giving up smoking?
Well, I'm going to give up smoking anyway.
Are you? When is
I've
this going to
broken
start?
this news to you. I'm thinking of giving it up when I return from the United States.
Okay, and absolutely, or
Yep.
or just cutting down, or
No,
what?
completely.
And how will your desire for the tobacco fix cope with that?
I'm going to take up crack instead.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. I thought you'd say something rather stupid like that. But I mean,
Well,
how are you going to cope with the withdrawals?
Well, I've given up cigarettes before.
Have you?
In fact, funnily enough, one of the times I gave up was when I was in Bosnia.
Right.
Which was one of the most stupid places to give up cigarettes because, one,
Yeah,
they
they're
were
very
incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
Two, I was living practically on a British Army base.
That's right.
Where they are even cheaper.
And it's very
And
stressful.
three, where it's quite stressful.
That's right, yeah.
But I managed to do it there. And in fact, I only started smoking again when I came back to become features editor of the Daily Express.
Right.
Which I said laughingly was actually much more stressful than being in a war zone.
Of course it was, yeah, because you had to deal with all sorts of half-bakes who
Yes.
were plotting against you.
Exactly.
No, I mean, the reason I ask is because a colleague of mine told me that the Prime Minister,
Theresa May,
has given up salt and vinegar crisps
Oh, I saw that,
for Lent. Right?
Yeah. Is she Catholic? I don't think she is she?
No, she's diabetic apparently, and so
I didn't know that was a religion.
Well, no, it's not. I don't think it is actually. But
I mean, you never know.
No, you never know. But I mean, if she's leading from the front and she is our number one citizen,
is she?
I feel we should all, in some way.
You don't really eat crisps, do you?
No, I don't. I don't really eat crisps. No, I like peanuts because of the oil in them.
Should you not
which
at this
helps my
point
heart.
say, actually, my favourite snack is pork scratchings?
Well, pork scratchings are getting big because, of course, there's a launch a week on Friday at Harry's Bar in Wigan, to which a load of people are going to pile along
It's an
to.
exclusive place, that, isn't it?
I'm going to buy a few few pints of beer.
Oh,
you
yeah?
know, not go mad and all that, but certainly
How
it'd be
about
nice to see.
4 pints of beer and a pint of wine like you had the other day?
Well, yeah. I mean, so it's 3 actually, 3 pints of beer. But no, what I thought was, I thought I would give up chewing gum for Lent.
Okay. I didn't know you were a big chewing gum aficionado.
Well, you know, since I had my new teeth put in,
yes,
I was issued with a set of these little brushes which you need. To,
those little things that you stick in between the teeth.
To clean between your teeth. Like
Do you use those?
I do use them, and they're very effective. But the other thing that the doctor told me was that my dentist is a dental surgeon, so I call him Doc.
Why do you call him Doc?
Because his name is Doc. Doctor.
His name's Doc.
His name's Dr. Bernard. He's my he's my orthodontic surgeon.
Is he?
And he said actually chewing gum for an hour or two a day is also very good.
Yeah.
It generates the juices in your
saliva.
mouth. Salival glands.
Glands,
that's
yes.
right. And
it certainly does stimulate them.
And makes it all work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but isn't there a counter effect of all the sugar that's in the chewing gum? And did he recommend that you chew sugar-free gum? Or
there's hardly any sugar in any chewing gum now, is there? That's the big selling point now, isn't it? Non-sugar chewing gum.
But they still sell sugar-free gum, don't they?
That's what I suppose they do, yeah, but I don't know what that is. But anyway,
it's gum without sugar in it.
The point is, I thought you went to a Catholic school.
I did.
So
I was raised as a Catholic.
Right, well, if you're raised as a Catholic then, weren't you, for fear of being excommunicated, didn't you have to give up something for Lent every Lent?
Yeah, well, when I was an altar boy.
That's what I mean.
But that's trouble with my experience of Catholicism, and people who are Catholics will no doubt be very disheartened to hear me say this.
Yes.
I found it all to be rather hypocritical, and so I would not now call myself a practising Catholic.
No, but what did you give up in those days in order to
when I was an altar boy,
to keep your Catholic masters happy?
Well, when I was an altar boy and I was a young man, I mean, I didn't really smoke or drink or do anything that was considered to be...
you had chocolate, didn't you?
I usually
did you give up chocolate?
Yeah, probably. I would have given up chocolate or something like that, and then got excited about Easter coming because you get to have an Easter egg. You know?
Really? Yeah.
I mean, you would give up something, but it was all a nonsense, really. I mean, it's all a bit medieval.
Well, you say that, but it's also a belief, isn't it? That
in some
we
people's
do it
minds,
because, of course, Jesus had to give up quite a lot. When you get nailed to the cross, you haven't got much option. Sorry, what's your problem?
You say that,
yeah,
but I mean, there are many ways of interpreting the story. There are many ways of looking at what happened in the Bible. There are many ways of having a belief system.
Yes,
that just happens to be one. And as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't give up anything until perhaps the guy who's at the head of the Catholic Church, the Pope, gives up some of the stuff that he's got.
Well, he seems to be quite radical. He doesn't. He seems to want changes.
Yeah, but he's not very radical when it comes to the amount of vast wealth that he seems to be sitting on and the amount of money that the Catholic Church has.
Well, I mean, that's historical. He's got to cope with that, hasn't he? But
Well,
I mean,
he's got to cope with it, but he could give some of it away every Lent, couldn't he? He could say, right, this Lent, we're going to give away 40
Who'd you give it
million.
to?
You could give it to any number of people.
I mean, I think Mother Teresa.
You could give it to all sorts of struggling communities in Africa. You could give it to struggling people in South America.
Yeah, but would they waste it? I mean, would it be well
that's
spent?
not the issue.
I mean, Mother Teresa was into that, wasn't she? Mother Teresa was
if you give money to people as a charitable gift, you don't stand over them and say you must spend it. It's a bit like you saying to a homeless guy,
otherwise it gets wasted.
You must spend this on a sandwich, or otherwise I'm not giving it to you.
I think you do, otherwise it's wasted.
No, you don't.
Many people say that Mother Teresa actually wasn't, necessarily all she was painted to be.
There's a big debate about that, isn't there?
Although she is revered, and has she been beatified yet?
She has, I think.
She has, yeah. Revered as the kindest and most what's the word I'm looking for? The most honest woman ever born, who helped the poor, and that's all she ever did.
Tom says this. He said, "Why don't people give up bad habits for Lent? Stop using the phone at the wheel, for example. Save money and invest in yourself."
Well, I mean, look, I would support that. Anything that helps improve the safety of the general public is in my mind, a very good thing.
So, are you giving something up then? Since you asked me,
I am. Yes.
What are you going to give up?
I just told you, chewing gum.
So you're going to give up chewing gum?
Yes, I'm going to give chewing gum. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which I think is very worthy.
For 40 days and 40 nights? That's what you have to do?
Well, it depends whether it rains or not, because that's part of the equation, isn't it?
What?
If it rains on the first day of Lent, it rains for 40 days, doesn't it?
Well, no, Lent is still always the same length.
Yes.
Because it ends at Easter.
Yes,
that's the whole point of it. It doesn't just stop because somebody said, it's raining now, you can go back to eating as much chewing gum as you like.
No, okay, yeah. Well, I'll work out the formula.
I think you need to study your scriptures a bit more.
No, I'll work out the formula, and but I will make some contribution, because it's all about self-discipline, and you're testing
You
your
haven't
own
got any self-discipline.
I have.
What
Testing
makes
your
you think you've
self-discipline.
got self-discipline?
I've got tremendous self-discipline, I can assure you.
Really?
And I will definitely be looking in that direction.
Self-discipline I would like you to exhibit during this particular show is stopping in time so that we don't get late.
Well, we better not be late then.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Well, this could be the last time. This could be the last time. Maybe the last time. I
It's nice, isn't it? How about this from Richard, who says, MG, get us your share of the duty-free fags on the way back from America.
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
going to pack it in.
Yeah.
Thanks for your encouragement.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if you're going to do that, then let somebody else benefit. That's a very good idea. Now, that record, OK, this could be the last time. That's a Stones classic.
It is.
And the reason we're playing that is because, of course, it is the, Born on This Day. Brian Jones, 1942, died 1969, so he's a member of the 27 Club, you know.
He is indeed.
Yeah, that's right.
Terribly tragic death, actually.
Very tragic death, and a very mysterious death, actually, to which, to this day, Keith Richard still really doesn't want to talk about, you know. I mean, the story behind it is that he is regarded as the founder of the Rolling Stones, even though, obviously, Mick Jagger became the frontman of the Rolling Stones. It was all, apparently, according to rock historians, Brian Jones's idea.
Well, he was certainly what was thought to be, at certain points, the creative kind of force of the band.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yeah, creative force. Not only that, but he came up with the name, apparently, Rolling Stones.
Did he?
Which was a lyric from, was it a blues song?
Papa was a Rolling Stone?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that came out a bit later, didn't it? I don't know, I'm not sure.
Well, it was definitely a line he got from, was there a Bob Dylan song then, like a Rolling Stone? Did
like
that come
a
out
Rolling
by
Stone?
then?
No, but that was after they started as
Was
well.
it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said Rolling Stone must be some sort of blues expression or something, because he took it from a song. I remember reading the book about it, right? Now, he recruited Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, right? He died at 27 after drowning in the swimming pool of his home in East Sussex.
Yes.
The home was, in fact, the same home that was previously owned by A.A. Milne, who wrote Winnie the Pooh, thank you.
Robin.
And where Pooh sticks, you know, where they throw the sticks into the stream.
Pooh Sticks Bridge.
Yeah, that's right, and run to the side of the bridge, see which one comes through first.
Yeah.
So that was all amazing. But the strangest thing was, his death is still cloaked in mystery, because Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were on the way down there in Rolls Bentley, right?
Yeah.
And they were going to sack him. He was he'd lost control of himself. He was 27, and you know
he became a heroin addict, didn't he?
I think that is probably the case, but also drink and heroin and drugs and all. And he was completely useless in sessions in the studio and couldn't play a guitar. So they decided he was holding them up. So they went down there, even though he was the founder, and they actually sacked him. And they had to say to him, "Look, you're out the group," even though he'd founded it.
Yeah.
And then the following morning, they learnt that he was found face down in his swimming pool at the very house where they'd been the night before. Terrible shock. I mean, think, you know, you work closely with somebody like you and I suddenly found you, somebody,
face down in the swimming pool.
Somebody rang me up and said, Mike Graham's been found face down. It'd be a bit of a shock.
It would, yeah.
And
well, you'd just go work with Mike Osmond, though, wouldn't you?
Probably, that's right. Yeah, that's
You'd
good.
take a couple of hours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but get him on the phone.
Well,
by the way,
you got to be flexible.
You know, he's been doing these Trump impersonations.
Yes.
Trump is apparently addressing Congress as we speak.
Yes.
So we may have to get into that in a little while.
Indeed, we might have
see how he's getting on.
We might have our own take on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting round to the Brian Jones thing, there was a story that persisted for years. I think it still does. That Brian Jones, in his craziness, had ordered a lot of work to be done on this house,
right?
And it had all been done, and then a local builder had not been paid, and somebody came round to talk to Brian about where the money was for the bill.
Yeah.
And, you know, some sort of altercation took place, and nobody quite knows.
Is this meant to have happened on the night of his death?
Yes, yes.
What, so the suggestion being that something foul may have happened?
Yes, that's right. There's a suggestion that it wasn't necessarily just a straightforward, he was out of his head and he fell in the pool.
Which is the most likely explanation, I suppose.
Well, I would think so, wouldn't you?
The other
for a
one,
guy who's off his head and
the other
just
one
been thrown out the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, the other one being that he became depressed and maybe killed himself.
Yeah.
But
or didn't know what he was doing. Yeah.
No, but I mean, he could have also taken a view that,
Yeah.
I've just been fired from the one thing
That's
that I
right.
love,
Yes.
and I'm not going to be able to work with these guys again,
Yeah.
which could have caused him to take his own life, I
If
suppose.
you read the book, by the way, about Brian Jones, I mean, he's such a fascinating bloke. He was an inveterate womanizer. I mean, inveterate, like...
Well, I think they all were, weren't they?
Sexual predator. Yeah, I think they all were, yeah.
I mean, I think both... Keith maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but certainly Jagger still is.
And of course, Bill Wyman slept with more women than the other two put together. Apparently, he had an insatiable appetite.
Over 1,000.
Yeah, but even as a young man, I don't know why I find this funny, because it's not really funny, but Brian Jones was brought up in Cheltenham. So he actually used to sort of romance ladies from Cheltenham's Ladies'
Cheltenham
College.
Ladies' College,
Who were
yeah.
very posh and all that kind of
wasn't
stuff.
he quite posh as well?
Well, he was quite posh because his father was a vicar.
Yeah.
And what he used to do is, when he moved to the London scene, he used to love really shocking his parents. He broke out of this middle-class upbringing, went and joined the rock scene in London and wanted to be as sort of wild and notorious and as shocking as possible. So he used to, apparently, this is what I read, I mean, this is not very savoury, but he used
It's a family show, this,
It's a family
Be very
show.
careful.
He used to ring up his parents. I say his dad was a vicar. Every Friday and tell them how many women he'd caught venereal disease from that week. I mean, that's shocking.
Well, just because he didn't get on with his father.
Because he didn't get on with his father and wanted to upset his
I
father.
presume after a while they would stop taking his calls.
I'm not sure, really.
Yeah.
Because in those days, you could always tell when somebody's ringing from a phone box, couldn't you? And they didn't have a phone in the flat that the Stones lived in.
I know.
It's
Absolutely.
quite, that's quite shocking when you think about it, isn't it?
It is quite shocking. Absolutely
Yeah.
shocking. Now,
Yeah.
I could give you a view of Donald Trump's first address to the joint Houses of Congress, if you wish.
Yes.
But it's from Charlie Sheen. Who isn't actually one of our correspondents.
Right, okay, yeah.
But this is what Charlie Sheen has tweeted out in a sort of verse form, right?
Okay.
It says, Prez, blows my mind that the world is on pins and needles salivating to suffer the drivel from a simpleton, ho-ass piglet fraud like you.
Really? That's not very nice, is it?
Yeah, it's not very nice
I
at all.
would have thought Charlie Sheen, with the sort of wild lifestyle he's practiced over the decades.
And he's tweeted a picture of him with your mate Vladimir Putin.
Oh, he has, yeah. I would have thought Charlie Sheen would have had something in common with President Trump, i.e., the sense of showmanship, the expansive views.
Well, I guess he doesn't agree with much of what he has to say.
Well, I think that's because he lives in that bubble, doesn't he? He lives in the old LA bubble, and it's not politically sensible to show any sort of interest in the policies, positive interest
No, it's quite a
in the policies of Mr.
historic
Trump.
moment, this. So I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. We're going to take a listen to some of what Donald is saying.
Protect our nation from radical Islamic terrorism.
They're loving this in the Houses of Congress, right?
I'm sure they will.
Radical Islamic terrorism.
According to data provided by the Department of Justice, the vast majority of individuals convicted of terrorism and terrorism-related offenses since 9/11 came here from outside of our country. We have seen the attacks at home, from Boston to San Bernardino to the Pentagon, and yes, even the World Trade Center. We have seen the attacks in France, in Belgium, in Germany, and all over the world.
How about Sweden?
It is not compassionate, but reckless to allow uncontrolled entry from places where proper vetting cannot occur.
What do you think of it so far?
It sounds like Donald Trump, doesn't it?
It
sounds
does.
like he always sounds.
Yeah.
He tells you everything so positively because everything he says is right in his own mind.
Exactly.
So it never changes.
Those
His
given
delivery,
the high honor
delivery style never
of
changes.
admission to the United States should support this country and love its people and its values. We cannot allow a beachhead of terrorism to form inside America. We cannot allow our nation to become a sanctuary for extremists.
Well, there we are. This is a little snippet of Donald Trump, because it's quite an historic address that he's making. And if those are all members of Congress that are applauding him, they're liking what they hear.
Well, who else is applauding?
I mean,
you?
it slightly worries me
Yeah.
that I'm going off to America next week,
Yes,
right? Next
yes.
Saturday.
Indeed.
It doesn't worry me, but I'm quite sort of interested to see what it's going to be like.
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be fascinating.
Because a lot of the stories
Yeah.
that we've read about
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's son
Yes.
being turned back or being questioned, about
Yes.
Dwight York being told he couldn't fly through Miami because he'd
That's
been
right.
to Iraq for
Yeah,
24 hours or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know as well as I do, those immigration officials don't need much of an excuse to be horrible.
I'm
I
not-
wonder how horrible they're
Yeah,
going to be.
I totally
you know,
agree.
Just because they don't like the look of you, or I mean, I've got stamping my passport from Turkey, right?
Yes.
Because I've been on holiday there.
Yes.
Now that is not on the list of 7 countries.
No.
However, you know, Turkey is also known as a place where there have been some terrorist atrocities. Some,
absolutely.
Some Islamic terrorism has gone on.
Yeah.
So, you know, for all I know, they might drag me off into a room and say,
Yeah.
"Well, you're doing it in Turkey."
That's right, yeah, even though it was a long time ago and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Well,
Right.
well, certainly you never used to get into a lot of... it's all very well for American people to protest about this, but you couldn't get into some Arab countries
No.
for decades if you'd been to Israel and
That's
you had an
right.
Israeli stamp on your passport.
And even now,
Yeah.
if you are
Yeah.
an Israeli,
Yes.
you can't go to some of them.
Yeah, that's right, yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
So,
Now,
so the world is a fascinating place at the moment.
it certainly is. Now, funny you should say that you're passing through Heathrow.
Yes.
It is Heathrow, is it?
It is Heathrow,
It is
yeah.
Heathrow.
Although I didn't mention that, but thank you.
Well, you're going to America, and
Yes.
I kind of knew you were going through Heathrow. Are you aware of these people at Heathrow call themselves passenger ambassadors?
I don't think so.
Well, what they are is they stand there with a clipboard like
Right.
that, and they're there to, hello, sir, you're having trouble getting around Heathrow Terminal 5,
really?
let me help you, and
Oh,
all
I
that
don't
kind
think
of
I've
stuff.
seen one of them.
They've been introduced over the last few months and all this kind of stuff, you know.
Right.
The problem is there now complaints are pouring in from passengers who say, actually, they're not helpers.
Right.
They're people directing me to particular stores to spend money before I
really?
get on the plane.
No, is that right?
It
So
says-
are they behind security then?
Yes, absolutely. They're on the shopping mall
Right,
side,
okay.
so to speak. You
Yeah.
know, it says staff at Heathrow whose duties include helping travellers to find their flights are paid commission to direct people to the airport shops.
Oh, dear.
Heathrow's website says that its passenger ambassadors, as they're called, are there to help people with their journey. There's 250 of them.
Blimey.
Right. And they work on the air side of security.
Right.
But a Channel 4 programme, Dispatches, this is going to be shown.
Good show, that.
Yeah, that's right. Discovered that they have sales targets to meet, with those working at entry-level positions expected to bring in about £2,500 a day worth of expenditure. In total, they're expected to generate £125 million worth of sales a year.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
That is not good, is it? That doesn't
Yeah.
sound in any way like... or at least they should be open about it and
Yeah.
say, by the way,
Yeah.
you know, I represent, you know, this shop or that shop or the other shop.
Absolutely.
But we've got to hurry because we're going to talk about space coming up in a
Indeed.
moment. You can fly to the moon very soon. And, of course, you might be able to fly to one of these
Take it to the
new
moon.
planets that have been discovered.
Yep.
This is TalkSport.
Yep.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. Now, while you were listening to Donald Trump there talking to the joint houses of Congress
Yes.
about his plans for the future, what we don't know yet is whether or not he will be supporting NASA, giving more money to them,
Yeah.
developing more ways and more extraordinary
Sure.
ways of travelling through space.
Sure.
We're going to talk to Dr. Ian O'Neill, who is an astrophysicist,
Great.
to find out what he makes. First of all, the Elon Musk plans to fly some tourists around the moon, and also the 7 new planets that have been discovered recently.
Yes.
Dr. O'Neill, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hey there, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
thank
Very
you very
nice
much
to have you
indeed.
back. Now,
Thank you for joining us.
shall we start with the sort of the shuttle to the moon, as it were, the tourist aspect of going? Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost?
Oh, it'll be tens of millions. Looking at what Elon Musk has been saying and what SpaceX has been saying, it's probably going to be tens of millions. But who knows? I mean, they're keeping it under close to their chests. It's a bit of pocket money. Let's put it that way.
But Doc, honestly, is this going to have the same long-term success as Richard Branson's, now sort of, incredulous plan to put people into space? Is it ever going to happen in our lifetime?
It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. Where there's rich money, where there's lots of rich people, there is a means of getting into space, let's put it that way. Yeah, so Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, they've had a few problems along the way, but they've got a lot of people signing up for it and a lot of people putting a lot of money into it, and it's going to happen in the next couple of years. But that's a suborbital flight. What Musk wants to do, he actually wants to launch two people. We don't know who they are yet. I'm kind of hoping one of them's Donald Trump. Who knows? It might happen. Send it out towards the moon, and it's basically going to slingshot and come all the way back. It's going to be like a 10-day trip.
And so what would people actually see? Because, I mean, when you tell somebody like me a slingshot, it's sort of like you're going around the back of the moon and sort of coming all the way back at more or less the same way you came. So will you technically see the dark side of the moon?
Exactly, yeah. You'll see the far side of the moon. So you'll basically, as far as I can tell, the idea, I mean, details are really, really sparse at the moment. But we've got, what we do know is we can send, I mean, the Apollo missions back in the 60s and 70s, we know that we can actually send humans to the moon, and you can use the gravity of the moon to slingshot the capsule back, and then they'll be safe, and they'll come back at home. And that's pretty much a similar thing here. As far as I know, it's going to be a one-orbit trip, so they're going to be launched, head towards the moon, slingshot around the back, and come back, and then they will come back through the atmosphere and survive and tell the tale and be very happy, and hopefully there'll be more people following them. And that's pretty much what they're suggesting right now. And what is interesting in this case is that it seems that this pair, these two people, we don't know if they know each other or whatever, but they came independently to SpaceX and said, "Hey, we want to go to the moon. Here's a wad of cash. Can you do it?" And it just so happens that SpaceX has been developing this technology for many years with the help of NASA's funding as well over the years. And of course, in the next year or so, they want to actually send astronauts to the International Space Station. So they have the technology. Whether or not they can actually send a capsule around the moon, and they're hoping to launch it by the end of next year, that remains to be seen. But we will see.
But Doc, isn't this the ultimate sort of indulgence of the human race now? Somebody's going to pay $25 or $30 million just to get into a spaceship to go on a jolly, which is all it is, doesn't seem to have any scientific aspect to me, around the back of the moon and come back again when we still haven't cured cancer. Now, I know that, you can say...
Not that old chestnut.
Yes, it is. What you can say, what's the two going to do with each other? A hell of a lot, I would think. If man is now so indulgent...
Maybe you'll find a cure for cancer in outer space somewhere.
But I just said it has no scientific aspect whatsoever.
You don't know that.
Well, sorry, Doc, can you fill us in on that? Does it have any scientific aspect, this trip, or is it just literally the ultimate thrill journey?
Yeah, it's both. And it's totally a thrill journey. Absolutely. If you've got a lot of money and you want to have the ultimate, so it's like buying the best car. I can say, I've been into space. Look, I've got loads of money. There is that aspect, but there is also the aspect of the more space endeavours we do, the more technology we develop in those areas. And we haven't been back to the moon for the last 40 years, and that's a problem. I mean, it's like that's our nearest neighbouring island in space, and we haven't gone back there, and we haven't had the incentive to go back there because...
Exactly, there's nothing there.
Yeah, well, you say that. But
we got the moon rock. We got all the moon rock we could get on a number of missions, 7 or 8 missions.
I don't think you got all the moon rock you could get.
Well, we brought it all back and we looked at it and we decided it wasn't worth going again, didn't we?
Well, there is something on the moon that is actually very valuable, and actually the Chinese are looking at sending a manned mission there purely to start developing this. Basically, they want to mine the moon for this element called helium-3. Right. And basically that can be used in the future of developing fusion energy, and that could be clean energy for the planet. And it's actually gold dust, basically. We don't have it here on Earth. We don't have it in large quantities on Earth, but it's there on the surface of the moon. So that's one thing. But also you can use the moon as a stepping stone to elsewhere. So if we set up a base on the moon, we can launch rockets there at a fraction of the cost that it takes us to launch rockets off of the Earth, because the Earth is just more massive. There's more gravity. So there's a lot of reasons to go to the moon, but we haven't had the incentive because politicians, are politicians. They want to get re-elected, and sending a mission to the moon isn't necessarily a good political thing to do. Yeah. But Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, they're like, okay, well, we're rich, we want to go to the moon, and we see it as a benefit to humanity, and also it's a big shiny thing that we can show off to our friends, and that's fine by me. I mean, if it develops new technologies and makes space travel cheaper, we're able to go to the moon and we can go elsewhere and use it as a jumping board to elsewhere.
And speaking of which, presumably these TRAPPIST planets, right, which have been discovered, which are very fascinating to me. Anyway, I'm sure Porky doesn't think they're worth looking at.
Well, they're too far away. Man's never going to step on them, is he? Because man could never be alive in the time it takes to get there.
But you can't make that argument about the future because you don't know whether or not it might become possible to move somewhere quicker, particularly if we keep going into space and finding out new discoveries.
Maybe.
What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly my point. So it's like, the more endeavours we do in space, the more challenges we're going to, encounter. And one of them is definitely space travel, propulsion. And that is a big issue because just to get to the nearest star, which is 4 light years away, it's going to take 40,000 years for a probe or a spaceship to get there under current technology.
Yes.
So basically, the Voyager probe that's currently going out into space is actually into interstellar space right now. It's not going in that direction, but it would take it 40,000 years to get to Proxima Centauri, which is the closest star to Earth, which is actually has a Earth-sized planet in orbit, which is very exciting in itself. But that's a completely different matter. But these TRAPPIST-1 planets, there are 7 planets, 7 roughly Earth-sized planets around this very cool star. 3 of those planets are within the habitable zone of that star. But as you said, as you rightly said, it's 40 light years away.
That's right.
That's like 10 times further away. So what are we going to do? I mean, are we going to spend 500,000 years getting there, or do we have to develop new technologies to get there? And that is pretty much what we'd have to do. And I think if there's one discovery that would propel us to send humanity into the stars and actually develop this technology, it would be to find a true second Earth. And eventually we'll have the technology here to actually see the atmospheres of these distant planets. At the moment, they're just like these little objects, 40 light years away.
That's right.
We don't know if they've got atmospheres. We don't know if they've got aliens. We don't know if it's suitable for humans.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
What?
Exactly.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's all they are at the moment.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I find extraordinary, really, Ian, because, we do know an awful lot about the Earth. I realise that there's parts of the Mariana Trench that we might not have actually reached yet, but we know so little, really, about what's going on up there in the heavens, for want of a better word, that we feel, I feel as if we're sort of, a race of sort of ignorant people just kind of looking up going, I don't know what's going on up there.
Yeah, we are, and the thing is, we're so consumed with day-to-day events down here on Earth, and we've got a lot of problems down here on Earth. We've got massive climate change issues that are going to really kick us in the teeth in the next few decades. I mean, they're hurting us now, but in the next few decades, we're going to have more extreme weather conditions. And people, when large amounts of people start suffering and dying, that's when we're thinking, okay, well, perhaps we should do something about this. Unfortunately, that's usually too late. As human history dictates, we're usually too late to actually fix a problem before it actually happens. And space travel is helping us. Space exploration, space science is helping us monitor our planet. So just by getting this stuff into space and actually developing this technology in space, we're actually able to monitor our planet better and actually come up with strategies on how we can actually prevent a lot of these problems happening down here on Earth. Everything from water scarcity to soil science to basically the melting of the ice caps. We're at, scientists, they're doing really incredible, important work, and which is why the current political climate, of course, in the States, as you know, no doubt highly aware of, is kind of scary because the current administration wants to turn their back on that, and that is terrifying because if there was a time in human history where action needs to be done, it's now. So I'm really hopeful that space science and hopefully as you mentioned about the perhaps funding for NASA from the current Trump administration, he seems pretty keen to explore deep space. But while exploring deep space, we can also turn back and look at ourselves and hopefully save the planet in the long run. But who knows?
Just getting back to our original conversation, Doc, about what's on the moon that we could have. I mean, I've got this image in my head now that it would be quite easy, really, for the Chinese to have what I might call space barges, huge vessels bringing back hundreds of thousands of tons of this hydrogen-3 stuff to use on Earth. I mean,
Helium-3.
Helium-3. That doesn't sound very difficult.
No, and it shouldn't be. And this is the thing. We've been sitting in this hiatus for 40 years, not sending anything back. But the Chinese are now like, okay, we got a new... It's a great national pride to the Chinese with their new space agency, and they've been pretty much doing it by themselves. Yeah, I mean, there has been accusations of them stealing technology from elsewhere, but, this is what humans do.
So are they harvesting this stuff already, Ian?
No. They hope to send a manned mission within the next 5 or 10 years, I think. But, of course, they're very secretive, so we don't really know.
No.
It kind of caught the world by surprise when they sent the first human into space, and now they've got a space station.
Who lays claim to this stuff? Because, nobody actually owns the moon, do they?
Exactly. So now we're coming to a very interesting time in our history where we're actually deciding how do we deal with space.
Yeah.
I mean, there are space treaties that have been signed, but they don't necessarily have to be ratified. And that is really the concern. I mean, say if, the Chinese are the only ones with the ability to go to the moon, they may well claim it because they're like, well, nobody else is here. Why bother? I mean, it may spark a war on Earth, but who cares? We got the moon. Yeah. So, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of law going into this, and we're actually seeing the first space lawyers graduating university for this very reason, to actually understand who owns what and who can do what in space. And hopefully we don't militarize space. I mean, at the moment...
It sounds to me like it might be the next war in space.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Over helium-3.
Fighting for helium-3, yeah, absolutely.
Fascinating stuff.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Dr. O'Neill, pleasure as ever. Thank you very much
Thanks,
indeed.
Doc.
Dr. Ian O'Neill, who is, of course, an astrophysicist, talking about the possibilities, the dangers.
Yes.
And this helium-3 thing could be a real problem,
Well, it could be.
We have to keep tabs on this.
That's a discovery made on the Two Mike show.
It is.
The next great war could be in space over helium-3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It sounds like one of those big futuristic movies, doesn't it?
Do you remember how the Pirates of the Caribbean would attack all other ships, merchantmen and privateers and all that, and seize all their cargo?
Yeah.
You can see, can't you, these huge barges coming back from the moon.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah, suddenly being, interrupted and boarded and stolen by other countries.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Trump will have to start. Trump will have to stop people coming in from outer space as well as from those 7 countries.
Helium-3, who's going to grab it?
Yeah, he's still talking, by the way. We'll bring you some more of that in a little while. Here's one from JPK. Did you go to Catholic or diabetic school? The bishops of latter advocate sacrificing crisps and intelligence into Alia. Thank you very much indeed. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Just before I was born, I got a boy child coming, he gonna be a rolling stone. Sure enough, he's a rolling stone. Sure enough, he's a rolling stone. Oh, well, he's a. Oh, well, he's a. Oh, well, he's a.
Rolling Stone Blues. That's
brilliant.
Muddy Waters.
Muddy Waters?
Yeah, who was one of the kind of, I suppose, iconic inspirations for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, that's right, he was.
And that's why they named him, named their band after it.
That's right.
After his song.
Thanks to the boys behind the glass there for
Yes.
finding that
well, a couple of people did
track.
tweet in the name of the track. Nico is one of them. So we'll give him a bit of credit.
Thanks, Nico.
Now, I must tell you
Yeah,
that
and
tomorrow...
by the way, just before you go on, sorry, a mate of mine opened a bar on a barge in Essex called Muddy Waters because he was such a big fan
That's
of the
quite
guy.
clever.
Which was great until, unfortunately, the boat sank. Yeah.
I don't know what I thought that was going to happen.
Well, it does.
But
It always does with boats.
But I
doesn't
suppose
it?
it did. Speaking of Essex, by the way, did you notice that great picture in the paper yesterday of Rod Stewart coming in incognito to the O2
on the tube,
taking
pictures taken by Penny Lancaster, his wife. Yeah, and he had a duffel coat. Well done,
yeah. I mean, amazing what you don't
Absolutely
notice when
amazing.
you're actually on the tube. Now, a couple of other things to mention to you. Wayne says this: Porky, if you retire to Tynemouth, I would arrange for your burial at sea for free if you keep bad-mouthing Newcastle United Football Club.
Well, I don't badmouth Newcastle United Football Club. I've told you before, I'm a big admirer of Newcastle United because it's a one-club city. The populace of the whole of the northeast sort of hinterland around Newcastle is devoted to that club.
Now, what will happen, for
support.
example, if Sunderland and Middlesbrough go down and Newcastle come up?
What do you mean?
What does that do for the area? Well, because you worked up there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do anything for the area. It just literally convenes the balance of power again. It's always been like that in the North East. Very rare occasion to have Middlesbrough, Sunderland, Newcastle in the...
all been in one division.
All been in the Premier League together.
All right.
What was the name of the hotel opposite the ground that we stayed in Newcastle?
It was something like the Sandman, wasn't it?
The Sandman, and the Shark Bar was the bar downstairs.
Something like that, yeah.
Where some of the best-looking people we've ever seen
You're talking about the women, aren't you?
amongst the staff. I'm indeed, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
But, it would be great to be a part of all that. I'm a huge fan of Newcastle and Newcastle United Football Club because of its sheer regional identity. And I don't badmouth them. All I said was that, to be celebrating being top of the Championship is one thing. You'd much rather, wouldn't you, be back to the Kevin Keegan days, celebrate being top of the Premier League?
Yes, I think you said it in slightly more strident terms than that, but never mind. Becky says this: I'm going to start a GoFundMe to send Porky to the moon. Can another two Mike's fans start one to bring him back, please?
No.
Here's one from H in Hull. He says, how about a Porky quiz on Championship and lower league football? A score of 0 out of 10 would prove what a football snob he is.
No, I'm not a snob at all, but, I mean, that's too broad-ranging, too wide-ranging, too
Well, you'll have
broad
to
a
give
subject.
some thought to the subject.
Oh, we will. I'll come up with one, don't you worry, I'll come up with one before tomorrow night's show, OK?
Here's one from Wayne. Respect Hodgson as a human being after he said, I don't know what I'm doing here at the post-disaster press conference. I do not.
I find it amazing. You speak to people in football like Warren Barton, who's good enough to come on the show and whose opinion I respect enormously. Saw him as a player and did a bit of work with Warren when I was at the FA and all that kind of stuff. And even he is, very reluctant to in any way criticise. He did sort of criticise him and said he wasn't good as a national coach, but we must think of his other values. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. Now, here's one from David who says, if the image of the 7 planets takes so long to get here, how do you know if they'll still be there when you arrive? Well, I mean, that's one of the great mysteries of life, isn't it? Well, and unfortunately, Lee says, I've got to say, I am with Porky on this planet thing, just a waste of money. Since you can't spell very well, it doesn't surprise me you agree.
Well,
with
unless
you.
he's from the North East, Wast is the way you write and pronounce.
Well, he's
waste.
a Manchester United fan, so I suspect he's not.
Yeah. What I would say is the doc actually, encompassed everything that I'm trying to say when he said, well, of course, the planets that are 40 million light years away, it would take nearly 500 million years to get there. It would take 400,000 years to get there.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, but my point is, and we always go over the same ground because,
Yes,
of course, it sounds ridiculous now.
Yes.
But not so ridiculous if, in fact, we discover other methods of propulsion, as he said, which mean that we get to places much quicker.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not as ridiculous. And that's my point.
Okay.
That in the future we might be able to get to those places in a lot less time.
Yeah, but
we'll never know unless we try.
But we're ahead of the game because we've already worked out that if we ever managed to invent a craft that could go at the speed of light, we would then be time travellers.
Yeah, but my point is,
that can't have happened yet because nobody on planet now has come from the future.
Well, you say that, but I mean, again, it's all in the lap of the gods, really, isn't it? I mean, just because you invent time travel does not mean that you would necessarily go back in time.
Well, I'd be very surprised.
Why would you go back in time if you invented time travel?
Well, because you'd want to. I'd love to go back in time and find out what it was like to stand on the foredeck of Nelson's ship Victory at the Battle of
You'd probably get shot.
Trafalgar. Well, I might, but then again, you take the risk. I'd like to go back in time and be a Spitfire pilot in 1940.
Well, then you'd also get shot.
Well, yeah, but I might be an ace and I might, shoot other planes down.
Well, you might, but I mean, it seems a ridiculously sort of self-absorbing way of doing travelling in time, doesn't it?
I'd like to go back to medieval times.
When you just want to observe rather than be a participant. In fact, I don't think you're allowed to be a participant on that whole time-space continuum thing. Otherwise, you'd change history.
You mean, that's right. If you're a Time Lord, you just have to sort of watch from the sidelines.
I don't think you would be a Time Lord no matter what happens.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
How important is it to you when you meet somebody new, their name?
When you say I meet somebody new of either sex?
Well, let's concentrate first on females. How much do you rate somebody by a lady, right, a girl, female? How much do you rate her by her name? For instance, do you regard some names as more feminine than others?
Not particularly.
If you met a lady called Rose, or
I have met a lady called Rose.
Yeah, that's right. Or
Mickey Brennan's sister is called Rose.
That's right. Or Trudy.
Trudy was your former
that's right,
inamorata.
Yeah, or Annabelle.
Annabella was one of my first girlfriends.
Or Poppy.
Poppy is a little girl who's a friend of one of my kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Aren't they more sort of girly type feminine names?
Are you thinking because it ends with a Y, sort of?
No. But I'm thinking like, you know, if I met a girl called Joanna, you know, I would shorten it to Joe, and then I think it would be a great name. But I don't.
Well, I
necessarily
used
call
to know a
somebody
Joanna who shortened it to Joe.
Yes.
And I mean, it suited her either way, really.
Yes.
I'm not that bothered about those kinds of superficial judgments, really. I mean, for example,
I mean, you
used
wouldn't
to
call
know...
anybody Catherine who was called Catherine, would you? You'd call them Kate.
Of course you'd call them Catherine.
No, you wouldn't.
We got Catherine that works here. I call her Catherine.
Oh, do you call her Catherine?
Well, what do you call her?
I think I call her Catherine as well, actually.
Yeah,
But I
well,
mean,
there you go.
but I mean that's her choice. No, that's her choice because I mean,
But why would you call her Kate? Because you think it's more feminine.
No, but if she called herself Kate, I'd call her Kate.
Well, Kate is a sort of different name from Catherine, though, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. But anyway, listen. According to my research,
I mean, for example, I was going to tell you, I know 2 women called Georgie.
Georgie, right? Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Georgie Bingham.
Hey there, Georgie girl.
Why are you singing?
Because it's a song. Yeah, go on.
Well, of course it's a song. I could sing everything as well if you like.
Yeah,
give me a word, I'll give you a song.
No, go on. Go on.
But so I mean, that to me would you might say sounds like a masculine version of a female name.
Well, I find that name quite confusing for a lady,
Really?
Georgie. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But I mean, aside from Georgie Bingham, who's very feminine, the 2 other Georgies that I know are also very feminine and very beautiful women.
Yes.
And I don't think it matters what people's names are.
Right.
I mean, you might as well say. Are some names androgynous, for example, because they could be male or female?
Well,
I mean, there are women called Michael.
Joe is.
There are women called Michael. There are women called
There
Charlie.
aren't many women called Michael. There's plenty of ladies called Joe, and there's plenty of blokes called Joe. So you can have a Joe with an E, which is a Joe, which is a male, or Joe without an E, which is a female.
That's true. You can have Charlie. There's girls called Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. I know a Charlie. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Charlene.
Doesn't matter, does it?
Well, I think a name does matter.
But why do you think it matters?
Well, doesn't it give you... for instance, if you met if a bloke walked through the door now and his name was Bob...
What about Vivian?
No, hang on. His name was... Let's talk about male names. His name was Bob.
No, but I'm saying that there are men called Vivian.
Yeah, very few.
Vivian Harmsworth.
Very, very few, and usually very upper class. If a bloke walked through the door now and his name was Bob...
Bobcat Bob.
Yeah, Bobcat Bob. You'd look upon him much more happily than if his name was Tim.
Not true.
Yes, you would.
No, incorrect.
You would.
No, but you see, I don't jump to conclusions about people. That's the sort of thing you do.
Yeah.
Because you have prejudices so far up the sort of the wazoo that you don't know which way to turn. I don't care what people are called. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what colour they are. I don't care what sex they are.
Yeah.
You know, I treat everybody the same.
We, generally speaking, society accept men called Bob more than we accept guys called Tim. Because Bob, the 3 letters of Bob roll off the tongue more easily than him.
Well, I certainly don't think I do that.
Ob is better than him.
Who's telling you this?
My research details this.
Which research details?
Well, I've been studying a report by Dr. Ruth Mayo, who is...
Ruth, what a terrible name.
Who's got she's from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
Oh, well, there we are.
And,
so she's talking about Israeli society or
No.
British society?
The research is published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology.
Oh, right. That's one of my favourites.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you got that one in.
I studied.
Do you?
Yeah.
Have you found a personality yet?
What?
This is Talk Sport. A couple more tweets have come in. Matt says this. Has the slumdog landlord considered buying the moon and renting it out to some Egyptian doctors?
Very funny. Don't be
That's a bit
ridiculous.
harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, very harsh indeed.
Yeah. Here's a guy called a Scottish Bull says this. Try get a guy called Andrew Basagio, who claims to have been in the American Civil War era, saying he was part of Project Pegasus.
Yes.
Isn't he the guy that we spoke to who said that he used to take those jump rooms up from... You remember he said there was one which takes you up to Mars and back.
Oh, that's right.
And he said there was one
at
at the foot of the George Washington Bridge.
And hadn't Obama been across that bridge into space?
Something like that,
Yeah, something like that, yeah. No,
in fact,
President
maybe
Obama
if I've got a spare 20 minutes while I'm in the city, I might pop up to the George Washington Bridge, see if I can find the jump room.
Find the jump room and get in there. Quite right.
Maybe quicker than coming back by British Airways.
Quite right. By the way, that fantastic information I gave you on names and the effect they have on you.
Yes.
It's all down to the fact that we should be naming ladies in life after flowers. So I mentioned
after
Rose.
Flowers, yeah. Poppy as well, you said?
Poppy, Tulip,
Tulip.
Yeah,
is
Daffy.
Tulip not one of the children of Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Chris Martin.
Yeah, Tulip, Daffy, Daisy.
Daffy?
Daisy. We already
Daffy?
have Daisy. Yeah, Daffy, as in daffodil.
Yeah, you wouldn't call somebody Daffy because you
of
think
course
it's Daffy Duck.
No. You could call somebody Daffy.
No.
Daisy.
Carnation.
Carney. Yeah.
Carney.
Yeah.
Carney's a surname, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we know.
Davey says this.
Carney.
Porky is short for Catherine is Kath or Cat.
Yeah.
Not Kate.
What's Kate?
Kate is a separate name. Like Kate Middleton is not called Catherine Middleton. Her name is Kate.
No, she is.
No, it's Kate.
It's not. She is Catherine Middleton.
Kate is not short for Catherine.
Well, she is Catherine Middleton.
Is she?
Yes, definitely.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain of that.
Well,
yeah.
then she's got it wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid she has got it wrong, yeah.
And Becky says this, if I ever meet Porky, you can forget Rebecca, Becky, Becca, he's calling me Doctor, and I'll call him Mr. Parry.
That's a good idea. Bluebell, would that be a great name?
Bluebell?
Yeah?
No.
I think it would be.
Not really.
Bluebee?
Sounds like a sort of stage name.
Bluebee, you'd call somebody Bluebee, you call a little girl Bluebee. Yeah,
no.
Bluebee.
No, see, I think you're confusing...
Lily?
Lily, yes.
Lily?
Well,
See,
we know somebody called Lily, don't we?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
I think the problem is that you can confuse what sounds like a sort of girly name with a name that you prefer a woman to have.
Yes, yeah, well, there you go. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know. Now, you won't believe this, but guess where the greatest number of male ballet stars in this country come from?
Where do they come from?
Yeah, and
what
as
do you
a
mean
result,
geographically?
Geographically, and as a result, one of the outstanding ballet companies in this country, which is called the Royal Ballet, is going to go to that particular town and perform outside of London for the first time in 30 years.
I don't know, Yorkshire.
Hull.
Well,
so you're right. You're right.
There you go.
I mean, could you believe
is that
it?
the Billy Elliot effect?
Well, it's something like that, yeah. Hull has become Britain's
City of culture.
crucible. Yeah, crucible for the nation's most accomplished male ballet dancers.
I thought that was in Sheffield.
No, it's Hull.
The Crucible, I mean.
The Crucible Theatre is
They
in
don't
Sheffield.
mean it that way, then?
No, of course they don't mean it.
Well, I don't know.
Well, the Crucible's a small C. The Crucible is a theatre in Sheffield.
Yeah.
So, for instance, there's a guy called Kevin O'Hara.
Okay.
No, O'Hare. Kevin O'Hare.
Kevin O'Hare.
Yeah.
Right.
Born in Kingston upon Hull,
That's
which
right.
is the full name of the... So.
It is.
And he is now like one of the lead dancers with the Royal Ballet.
Yeah.
And they're taking the production back there.
Oh, good.
Isn't that
I remember
amazing?
that guy Carl Turner, the MP for Hull. He's good at tap dancing,
yeah, that's
isn't he?
right. Yeah, he's
Does
very
a lot of
good,
tap
yeah.
dancing, doesn't he? Ballet dancing.
Yeah, he's a bit flat-footed, though, isn't he?
Still waiting for his expenses report.
Can flat-footed
His
people
letter.
dance? Yeah.
No, probably not.
Hull, which has a population of 260,000, has produced the highest number of ballet principals per resident of any city in this country.
Yeah, well, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good to spread the culture around the country, I always say.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not amazing, wouldn't you? Yeah. Liam Mower, this is interesting.
Well, I presume they must have a particularly good ballet school. Presumably that's why
They haven't got a
people
ballet
flock there.
school.
Well, why do people who are
Dunno.
going to the Royal Ballet come from there, then?
I don't know, but the point you just raised, Liam Mower, who played Billy Elliot in the stage adaptation of the film and has since joined a company in London, was also born in Hull.
Yeah. So that's why I said, is it the Billy Elliot effect?
Yeah.
You know the story of Billy Elliot. Have you seen the film?
No.
It's a great film.
No.
It's about a kid who grows up in a sort of gritty
Yeah.
northern situation.
And wants to be a ballet dancer.
But he wants to be a ballet dancer.
His dad wanted to be a miner.
His dad's not terribly excited about it, and his friends are not terribly excited about it, but he's very inspired and he's inspirational, and he finds a
Julie
teacher.
Walters is his teacher.
Julie Walters, right. And it's a lovely film, actually. Great story.
It says here, the reason that they get so many ballet dancers well is the quality of teaching in the city. They began a ballet school in the late 1940s.
Well, that's what I just asked you. They had a ballet school.
When Vera Skelton opened a ballet school, which still operates under her daughter, Vanessa Hooper.
Yes.
She says it's the tenacity of the teachers. But isn't that amazing?
Well, I think it's good. You know, and I suppose you might not expect it, but it just goes to show that something like Billy Elliot has actually had a massive effect.
That's right.
You know.
So, to celebrate the reopening during it's Hull's Year of Culture, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Is it
City
Year
of Culture
City of Culture,
2017.
right. Yeah.
In fact, they are going to... the latest thing I saw, I think they've taken that big blade out of the centre of the town.
Yeah,
now.
they have, yeah.
And what they're now going to do is have an exhibition of loads and loads of people painted blue and standing around naked.
Oh, really?
They did some artist did a thing where they invited hundreds and hundreds of people to stand in various parts of Hull.
How bizarre.
And they're all painted this kind of light blue colour. And they're all starkers.
How blinking bizarre.
It is quite odd.
Anyway, to celebrate the reopening of the whole new theatre after a £16 million refurbishment,
yes,
to celebrate the Year of Culture, on September the 16th, the Royal Ballet will be the first to perform there.
There we are.
Amazing.
Well, there's an awful lot of cultural things going on there at the moment.
Yes.
And in fact, there was a little video Vine that I saw the other day, which was a little bit pathetic, actually, where it showed all these people standing in a crowd.
Right.
But behind them, all the streets were completely empty.
Really?
Because they'd shot it a bit too wide.
Ooh.
And they were saying, it's not dull in Hull.
Yeah, not dull in Hull.
And, of course, all the comments underneath it on Twitter were, actually, it is quite dull.
It is very dull in Hull, yeah.
But people don't like it when we say that.
No, I totally agree. That's very interesting.
Yes,
it
is.
Have you ever come across Karl Lagerfeld?
Not exactly, no.
He's not exactly in the ballet world.
He had a big row with Meryl Streep, didn't he?
That's what I'm going to say. He seems to have...
He's upset her.
Yeah, that's right.
She seems very sort of highly strung at the moment, Meryl Streep.
Yes, that's right.
You know, she got very upset about Donald Trump.
Yes.
And then he wasn't very nice to her.
Yes, that's right.
But he's accused her of supposedly taking money to wear somebody else's dress.
Well, that's right, something like that. But he's got some very strong views on some very strong things, including short men.
Short men?
Yeah, what he says on short men, he says, some ugly people are great. What I hate is ugly and nasty people. The worst... are ugly men who are short.
Oh, yeah.
Women can be short, but for men, it is impossible to be a normal and decent human being if you're short.
What does he regard as short?
I don't know. It is something that they will not forgive in life. They are mean and they want to kill you.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
I mean, is he referring to anybody in particular, you think? Because sometimes these guys in the fashion world are referring to somebody specific. We'd have to sort of cast our mind back to some guy that was maybe short that he had a run-in with.
Well, he goes on to say there are not too many people in this world, too many men in particular, with an opinion that I care for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not crazy to discuss fashion with men anyway. I couldn't care less about anybody else's opinion.
Yeah.
So he's quite specific, old Karl Lagerfeld, isn't he?
Well, he is. But I mean,
weird-looking guy with that white hair and the dark glasses.
I was once in Port Banús, right, sitting in the Sinatra's bar.
Yes.
And this guy went around a couple of times. You know how it's kind of quite sleazy down there, right? And this guy was driving...
Puerto Banús?
Yeah.
It's not all that sleazy.
Oh, it's very
like
sleazy.
Really?
Oh, it's incredibly sleazy.
Yeah, right,
anyway,
right.
there's all these wealthy guys there and various women waiting to sort of meet them. And this guy came in a very, very expensive open-top Mercedes sports car and drove very slowly past Sinatra's bar.
Right.
And did what I can only describe as a very lewd gesture with his tongue towards this group of women, right?
Yeah.
And kept driving.
Yeah.
But he looked exactly like Karl Lagerfeld. I don't think it was him. But he looked exactly like him.
Okay.
He was German, had a German plate on the car.
Right.
He went round one more time, and the next time he came past,
Yeah.
these three women who he'd just sort of gestured to
Yes.
all jumped in the car and he drove off with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite remarkable.
That was quite quite a good pickup line then.
Well, I mean, you might say that, but it was clearly obvious to everyone that was watching that this was a guy who was incredibly wealthy.
Yes.
And just thought that he could pick up anybody he wanted to.
Right, okay.
Well, it was rather awful, actually.
Well, it definitely wasn't Karl Lagerfeld. I'll tell you why.
Why?
He lives in an astonishingly tacky apartment in Paris, says this biography of him. He lives alone, but for his beloved Siamese cat, Choupette, who has two maids of her own. That's the cat.
Right.
And each beside him at a dining table. He owns 300 iPods, but never goes online and rarely answers the phone. He says, I send notes. I'm not a chambermaid whom you can ring at every moment.
What a strange man.
Yes. Yes.
Well, there we are. That's Karl Lagerfeld for you. Let's talk about Philip Green, which we'll do very shortly.
Indeed.
Don't forget, coming up very soon as well on Periscope Live, it's going to be Ask Porky.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Who are you? This is a perfect song for Ian Holloway, but in fact, we're playing this because it's Roger Daltrey's birthday today as well.
Yeah, I think he's 73.
73 years of age.
Wearing very well indeed, I have to say. Last time I saw Roger Daltrey was a couple of years ago, one of those charity days in Canary Wharf.
Yes.
And he came into the same office I was in. And my first impressions were how fit he looked.
He does look
for his
fit.
age.
He looks after himself quite well.
Yeah, that's right. And my second one was that he's shorter than me.
He is very short.
73, that's right, yeah, just double-check that. My Generation came out in 1965.
Yeah.
So how old would he have been then? He'd have been about...
well, he's in his 20s, wasn't he?
In his 20s?
What was that, 52 years ago?
That is 52 years ago. Yeah,
So
21. 21, that's not bad, is it?
Yeah,
eh?
not bad at all.
Talking about my generation.
I spent a lot of time following The Who around when I was
you
sort of
told
in
me
my
that,
late
yes.
teens
Yes.
and early 20s. Great band, fantastic
Yes.
band.
You still
I wouldn't
got their
bother now.
records, have you?
Funnily enough, yes. In fact, I had a bit of a
Yes.
vinyl expo today, this afternoon.
Oh, yes?
You might have seen that I put out on Twitter that I was playing Sgt. Pepper. Did you not notice that?
I didn't notice which record it was because
You
it's
see,
going round.
you were too busy.
Yeah.
Well, the tweet, actually, you don't read my tweets, do you?
Why?
Because the tweet clearly said that I was listening to the Beatles in preparation for the show tonight.
Yes.
With you.
I saw that, but I couldn't work out which record it was because it was going round.
Well,
and
you can pause it.
Well, I didn't pause it. No, I just...
And instead you just wanted to load me up with a load of abuse.
Well, what I said was, that record's not going round, mate. You are, because you're bladderated and the room is spinning around you. That's
Yes.
what I said.
So you were
Which
more
I thought
concerned.
was quite a funny
It wasn't
jibe.
funny at all. You were
Yeah.
more concerned with being insulting to me than actually
Yeah, it
looking
was,
at the record that I played. Do you know what records I played this afternoon?
No.
So I played the one side of Sgt. Pepper.
Right.
Because when I play albums, I tend, rather than playing the whole album,
Yes.
I'd rather just play one side.
Okay, yeah, good.
I played one side of Paul Simon.
Yes.
There Goes Rhyming Simon, which I
Okay.
rather liked.
What tracks were on that?
Kodachrome was on that.
Right.
And
50 Ways to Leave Your Lover?
no, that's on a different album.
Right.
That's still crazy after all these years.
Okay.
I also played one side of an album by Sutherland Brothers and Quiver,
Oh,
which
yeah?
I rather like, which is a sort of folky, rocky type thing from
Yeah.
Scotland. I then played a side of an
Let
album.
your love grow.
What?
Like you. That's the one
No,
of
that's
those.
the
isn't it?
Bellamy Brothers.
Oh, Bellamy Brothers. Okay, yeah.
They're American.
Okay, yeah.
No, this is Sutherland Brothers.
Sutherland Brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, what do they make?
Well, I'll play you some of their music one of these days.
Yeah.
I then did a side of an old Police album, which was very good, actually.
Oh, yes?
Yeah.
Always thought their music was a bit slow.
I Can't
for me.
Stand Losing You. It wasn't slow. Born in the 50s was a good song. In fact, it would be apt
Yeah.
for you.
The only
Not actually apt for
Sting
me.
record I ever liked was Message in a Bottle.
Yeah.
And the other
Well, that
one,
was a Police
the
song.
only other one was Every Move You Make, Every Breath You Take.
Yeah. Well, that was a bit later.
Every move you make, every breath you take, I'm going to be with you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one from James.
I
He
don't know how
says-
you can do that, on a working day when we've got a show to plan and all that kind of stuff, and I'm dealing with, sort of high finance.
No, you weren't dealing. You were dealing with high finance to do with your own property empire. Nothing to do with this
yeah.
show. You were also dealing with getting your, useless car fixed
Yeah.
up again,
I can't-
which wasted an awful lot more time. It was also nothing to do
Yeah.
with the show.
See, that's the difference between you and me. I can't suddenly switch off and then just say,
I wasn't
I
switching
think
off.
I'll put disassociate myself
I
from the
wasn't
real
switched
world
off.
and put a few records
No,
on.
but you see,
eh?
the difference between you and
Eh?
I is that I appreciate music, and I can sit there sending emails and writing stuff while I'm listening to music. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't preclude me from actually doing anything else.
Yeah, shall I tell you?
I just had music on in the background instead of sometimes I'd have the TV on,
Yeah.
other times I'd have the radio on. On this particular occasion, I
Yeah.
was listening to music.
I can't do that. Now,
Well, it
can
doesn't surprise me.
Can I tell you how I have been right all along and you've been wrong from a new survey I've read in one of my journals?
Well, if it makes you feel happy to think that you're right and I'm wrong,
Right.
then by all means do so.
Right, okay.
What
now,
is it?
Now, researchers have found out from... now, which is the journal I got this from? Let me just
I
find
don't know.
out.
Is it the personality one?
No, it's not the personality one. I'll specify the journal in a minute.
Will you?
It comes from...
Come on.
Hey?
Come on then.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to
anyway,
hurry you.
Anyway, this is the survey. Britons are now so materialistic, we believe that having money is even more important than enjoying good health. Okay?
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
41% of people questioned said that wealth was the key to happiness, compared to 32% who thought a life free of illness or disease was the most important.
Well, that depends how old you are when they ask you that question, doesn't it?
I suppose so, but
I mean,
we're
if
all
you're
living
25,
longer.
no, but when you're 25 and somebody says to you,
Yeah.
is your health more important to you than making money? You're going to say no, because
The-
you're pretty healthy. If they ask you when you're 55,
Yeah.
you might actually say, well, actually, I'd quite like to live for another 20 years.
The survey revealed some surprising results when it comes to how Britons measure happiness, the goals they strive for, and what makes them feel proud. Contrary to popular belief, only 15% of those asked said their wedding day was the happiest day of their lives.
Really?
That's only 1 in 6.
Well, I mean, it certainly wasn't the happiest day of your life, was it?
No. Intriguingly, 18% said the day they got engaged was their fondest memory. That's only 1 in 6.
Yeah.
Making love was the ideal way to feel good for 29% of people, while 63% plumped for a shopping splurge, as the best way to lift their spirits.
Really?
What about a bladderation session?
Well, who are these? Well, you see, not people. Most people don't see alcohol as a way to have a good time.
Yeah.
Most people see alcohol as a depressant.
Really?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
Well, because people drink alcohol and then after they sober up, they get depressed.
Do
it's
they?
known as a downer.
Is it?
It's that kind of a drug.
Okay. Britain's reputation as a nation of animal lovers is undimmed, with the poll revealing that some pet owners get more joy from their dogs and cats than from any relationship with a human being, their friends or their family.
That I can believe.
Right. Nearly a quarter said they'd be much happier if they could put their past mistakes behind them, while 1 in 6 admitted that they should complain less about their lives, which were reasonably comfortable.
Okay. Has it yet been determined which journal this came from? Or from which particular study?
I'm going to get that in a minute. Hang on. Among the favourite sounds which boost happiness are the popping of a champagne cork.
That's always
which
nice.
I would say is number one in your category.
I like that
but
sound.
not mine, because I don't drink champagne and I'm not materialistic like that.
Unless it's got orange juice in it. You do drink it with orange juice in it.
I do like a Bucks Fizz, yeah.
Yeah.
The tinkling of an ice cream van music.
No, I hate that.
I like that. It takes me back to my childhood.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
And the laughter of children playing, which I like as well.
The laughter of children playing is nice.
Yeah.
I tell you, a baby's laugh is great.
Babies laugh.
When you hear a baby just kind of giggling.
Unless you're in a restaurant or a pub having lunch and
I don't mind that.
Starts to, get persistent. And on public transport, it can really drive you mad.
I don't mind that.
It really can.
I think you're very intolerant.
No, I'm not intolerant because I never complain, but it can be irritating. Anyway,
really,
the evocative aromas, evocative aromas of a Sunday roast, freshly baked bread,
that's nice,
and roasting coffee, are the top 3 aromas which lift our spirits.
Okay, I don't object to that. How about perfume?
No, it doesn't say anything about perfume.
All
Right, the worst aspect of life in Britain is queuing.
Yes, I don't queue. I refuse to queue, generally speaking.
Well, you have to sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you what, yesterday on the tube,
yes,
I'd never seen anything like it.
Where was this?
Well, when I was going off to see the dentist, I had to go quite early. It was about 8:30.
Yeah.
And because there had been some kind of hold-up on the line, basically they shut down all of the gates. Normally there's about 6 or 7 gates.
Which
this was Canada Water on the Jubilee line, just by Canary Wharf.
Excuse me.
They shut it down to 2 gates to go through.
Yes.
So as soon as you got down into the station, it was a massive queue just to get through the ticket barrier.
Right.
Then the escalators had been shut off. And they said by an announcement they'd done that because they wanted to stop the overcrowding on the platform.
Right.
When I got down to the platform, you couldn't see it. There were so many people.
Yeah.
And I had to stand for about 15 minutes and about 6 trains before I could get on one.
That's outrageous.
I know.
What was this, Canada Water? What was the problem?
Well, the trouble with the Jubilee line is, right, normally at that time in the morning, trains come about every minute.
Right.
And if there's a problem, and say a train doesn't come for 5 minutes, that creates 5 times as many people that can get on a train.
Right, I
because
see.
every train is full.
Right.
So it's a bit like, if a flight gets cancelled at Heathrow, suddenly everything else is thrown into chaos.
Yes, okay.
But it was horrendous.
It sounds horrendous. Anyway, just to finish this survey, most people surveyed said Britain is an unhappier place to live now than it was 20 years ago. 63% agreeing we were better off in 1996. But
really?
I mean, to
I don't
me,
believe that.
No, I don't. This is all about, the good old days. What was good about poverty in the 1950s? Nothing.
Well, we're talking about 97 here, though, 20 years ago.
I know, but in 96, we didn't have a developed mobile phone system like we have now.
1996 was one of the great years because it was Euro 96 when people were very happy, right? And so maybe they're thinking about that there was some feel-good thing going on.
We didn't have the sort of, exclusive executive cars like I drive now in 1996.
Yeah, you did.
So life is better now.
You just didn't have one.
No, but they weren't
You could still buy an E-Class Mercedes in 1996.
Yeah, but they weren't as sophisticated as the one I've got now.
Well, no, it wasn't as modern, but I mean, it was still as luxurious at the time. You can still have been just as much of a snob and look down on people in the same way that you do now.
Yes, well, no, I don't do that, and you always accuse me of that, but I don't.
Mind you, it's true they didn't have a Jaguar F-Pace, because they only came out with that this year.
Yeah, and also the Jaguar F-Type.
What about it?
It's a better car.
Yeah, but I haven't got that. I've got an F-Pace.
No, but we will have. There will be one around quite
What, you
soon.
mean you're going to buy one?
I can't say.
It's really hurt you that I've got a better car than you.
No, I can't say too much.
Have you ordered one?
I can't get into that at the moment.
It's a sports car, isn't it?
It is a sports car. It's a
two-door
sports
doors.
car. Yeah,
it's even lower than the one you've got.
It is, actually.
What sort of tyres has it got?
Even bigger than the ones I've got now.
Bigger?
And a 5-litre engine.
Really? You'll probably kill yourself in it. How much did it cost you?
That was part of the reason why I had to go and sort of rearrange all the financial
Well, you've taken out a mortgage to buy a car?
No, not at all. No, I haven't done that.
When are you going to get this car?
Well, that's it's all there's negotiation going on at the moment. Okay, so it won't be.
Why
won't
can't
be
you
soon.
just tell the truth?
Well, it won't be soon because you have to order them months in advance.
I see.
And I'm
Well,
also,
but then you can buy them off the shelf, can't you?
you can, but I'm also, I also don't want to. If I get rid of the car I've currently got now, it costs me a lot of money in sort of depreciation and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've got to be smart. And that's why I've got to see people about this still.
I see.
Anyway,
okay.
I found out.
None the wiser. Have you seen the time, by the way?
I found out who did the survey.
Yeah, go on.
It was the Feel Good Drinks Company.
Whoever they are.
Yeah.
Who are the Feel Good Drinks Company?
I don't know, but they did the survey.
Well, I've never heard of them, so I don't trust any of it.
Well, I'm telling you,
I don't trust a word of it.
That's the outcome.
I mean, all these surveys and this social mores and what people tell people when they ring them up. I mean, half the time they tell them a load of old cobblers anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody rings you up on the phone. Do you think you're happier now than you were in 1996?
Yeah.
Depends on the day, doesn't
it?
It
certainly does.
Yesterday, yes. Tomorrow, no.
Yes.
Load of old cobblers.
Yeah.
Coming up next, some real proper journalism. Ask Porky.
Yes.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it?
I'd like to emit positivity to our millions of listeners.
I haven't noticed
which
that,
is what I do.
Say.
Yeah.
But we are live on Periscope. You can see it on Facebook as well. Look for the Two Mics page there. I've got loads and loads of Ask Porkies for you. So as ever, I'm going to have to ask you to be as brief as possible while at the same time being as helpful and informative as possible. And we're going to start off with a football question from Stevie, I should say. Will Leyton Orient keep with 105-year tradition and stay in the Football League? Or will divine Porky intervention be required?
Well, they look to be in a very parlour state to me, Leyton Orient, and I have to say that the efforts of Barry Hearn, who is a business genius, really, to try and keep them afloat and keep them going, looks as though even his extensive talents to make it a going concern are not going to work. I fear the worst for them.
Do you?
Yeah.
How about this from White, who says, would you rather eat free fish and chips meal made and cooked by MG, or would you pay for a Wetherspoon's inferior version?
I wouldn't regard Wetherspoon's version of it inferior. I mean, it's all very well for people to be snobbish and looking down the noses at Wetherspoons and all that. The point is, they're the biggest fish and chip retailers in the world every Friday because they've got over 700 or 800 pubs in this country which all serve fish and chips on a Friday. So they're practised in how to make fish and chips and how to make them well. And I've never had a bad plate of fish and chips in Wetherspoons. So thank you for the offer of cooking me fish and chips. I'll stick with Wetherspoons.
OK, here's one from D. Marcus. He says, last week I witnessed a swan quite viciously attack a duck. I let nature take its course. Would you have intervened?
Yeah, I would have intervened. It's horrible. And all you've got to do is make a fuss and flap your arms about and try and... maybe you're going to have to even hurl projectiles towards the two animals concerned, not to hit them, but to make sure they drop into the water next to the animals to cause a
Do the swans not come after you then?
They might do, but the swans won't get you. I mean, all this rubbish about, be careful, the swan can break your arm. That's rubbish. That's just an apocryphal tale. Swans are swans, and if they get any close to you and start attacking you, you flap about and they go away. You don't try and harm the animal. But what swans do is, if they think that a duck is getting too close to the nest during nesting season, which is now, they will get hold of a duck by the neck and they'll hold the bird underwater until they drown it.
OK.
Yeah.
Craig says this on Facebook. Porky, if you believed in reincarnation, what would you like to come back as? And you can't say yourself.
Yeah. If I believed in reincarnation, and I don't know enough about it to say I disbelieve, I want to come back as something that did some good or something, well, or something that contributed to the world. I'd like to be a Spitfire fighter pilot. I keep telling people during the Second World War to see if I could help my country.
So you wouldn't be reincarnated as an animal or anything?
No, I wouldn't, no.
OK.
No.
Here's one from Dave. He says, if you were Prime Minister, would you have MG in your cabinet? And if so, in what role?
I probably would have MG in the cabinet. I think he's quite a wise man, actually, despite all the frivolity of life, and quite able to make calm decisions under pressure. So the answer to that would be yes. And also, remember, if you want a friend in politics, get yourself a dog. That was actually, if you want a friend in Washington, get yourself a dog. So you've got to actually surround yourself with mates in politics to try and protect yourself.
By the way, I'm told that the Donald Trump speech has been quite bipartisan, and he's actually kind of softening a little bit. So that's interesting. Now, here's one about alcohol, your favourite subject. Jonathan says, I have a bottle of Perrier Jouet champagne that I was given for hitting a sales target back in 1992.
Yes.
Will it still be OK to drink, or shall I use it instead of vinegar next time my fish and chips.
Well, I wouldn't drink a bottle of champagne from 1992. I used to think the longer you kept wine, the better it got, but it goes off after a number of years, especially red wine, which is supposed to keep forever. As for champagne, I think it's such a dodgy product, champagne, and go off so easily and get bad so easily. I simply wouldn't. And I wouldn't use it for vinegar as well. I'd just chuck it away, mate. Here's one
from Dean. I've got a new job. It's a new start, but really scary. It's a young company with bigger risks. Have I done the right thing?
It depends entirely on your own makeup and your own ability to take on new challenges. But, I mean, what I have to say is there's a huge risk in taking on anything new in this country. Over 90% of new companies fail, and almost 100% of new ventures never pay off in the short term.
Here's one from Butch, who says, my 11-year-old daughter Katie wants to take 8 of her friends to Chessington for her birthday. Do I make an excuse or do I suffer all 8 of them and take them?
You've got to have a look at the actual facts of the situation, the stats. I mean, the point is there have been horrendous cases of damages and injuries at several theme parks over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's something that frightens me enormously in the sense that, kids are fearless and they never, ever believe that anything's going to go wrong when they get on a ride, but things do. So it's up to every individual parent to make that assessment, because we have seen some terrible pictures of young ladies in particular having amputated limbs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, hopefully that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
There's one from Patrick who says, how do you forget about a girl who will never love you?
Well, you've answered your own question. If you can't forget about it, you're never going to forget about it. So you just got to get on with life and live life with that burden. If it's a burden, it might even be a comfort, because maybe you won't find anybody else, and then you'll say, "Well, there was always whoever it was." It doesn't have to be a burden, but if it is getting to become a burden, then
go and find a new burden.
No, you've got to address it. You've got to go and trace that person down and sort out the relationship with them.
Daniel says this, Porky, I'm in training for a half marathon and therefore have given up bladderation. Seeing as 40% of your show consists of bladderation tales and Fleet Street colleagues that drank themselves to death, would it be wise of me to stop listening until after the race, thus avoiding temptation from the constant reminders?
No, there's nothing wrong with a period of non-bladderation, and I do it as well. I sometimes don't drink sort of, between Monday and Thursday, and you feel good on it and there's no problem there at all. But do be careful about dehydration. I mean that seriously. If you're going to be walking 13 miles or running 13 miles, your body needs to be rehydrated. And when you say giving up bladderation, nothing wrong with beer, nothing wrong with beer at all. A couple of beers a day while you're training are actually quite good for you.
Here's one from Material. He says, if you had to spend a day with an identical clone of yourself, what would you and the clone do? That's quite a weird question.
It's a very weird question. So it's like having a twin, I suppose. And you go, well, just do things you enjoy doing. Take the boy for a drink, because it would be a boy, obviously, it was a clone of mine, and sit down and discuss the common problems of...
It'd be great if you went into a bar and the clone said, look, I'd rather be on my own, actually.
That's right.
Give me another table for one.
Yeah, go and sit over in the corner, I'll sit over here. In fact, in my case, if it was a clone, I'd say, look, I've got a great idea. You spend today in Stockbroker Belt, and I'll spend today down on the coast. Thanks a lot. Get lost.
Kelly says this, how did the Seven Sisters Road get its name?
The Seven Sisters Road got its name from a nunnery, i.e. a nun's convent, which was set up just on the northern edge of Stamford Hill in about the 14th century, and known as the Seven Sisters, of course, because of the nuns who occupied it. It's not there now, but...
it's nothing to do with the Seven Sisters, the cliffs down on the south coast?
No, nothing to do with that at all. No. It was purely a theological thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's one from Paul, who says, Porky, the missus has gone up a dress size since Christmas.
Yeah.
Is this the start of a slippery slope? And how do I tell her she needs to watch the calories?
Well,
That's a tricky one, that.
No, it's not tricky. You've got to understand that bodily appearance is vital to the attraction between a man and a woman. And if a bloke starts getting fat and slobbery, watch out for your wife going out to find somebody who doesn't look fat and slobbery, and similarly the other way around. And, I have told the famous tale about a lady I used to go out with, and the first time she introduced me to her sister, who was very, very much heavier than her and about 6 or 7 years older, I had to mention to my girlfriend that it would be a terrible shame for the way she looked, because she was a very good-looking girl, if she let herself slip away like her sister. Cruel, but I'm afraid it had to be said.
Speaking of babies, Matty says this on Facebook. Me and my missus are 4 years of our first baby due in June.
Yeah.
We have found out it's a girl, and we have 3 names in mind.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because we were just talking about names.
Yes.
The 3 names are as follows: Isabel, Peyton, or Brooke.
Yeah.
Which name does Porky like the best?
Isabel. I think that's a nice feminine name. It's not quite the name after a flower, because there's no flower called the Isabel, but it's very similar to that.
There's a bluebell.
There's a bluebell, exactly, and there's a lily and there's a rose. So, Isabel, I think, is the best one.
You can shorten it to Izzy as well, can't you?
Izzy, yeah, you can. Yeah, we know an Izzy.
We certainly do.
Yeah.
Kelly says this, a vandal was parked on double yellow lines in my street. Do I inform the local council?
Well, is it obstructing your ability to run your life? I mean,
it's on a double yellow line.
Well, it's on a double yellow line, but it's not actually obstructing anything you do. If it's stopping you getting in and out your parking space or your garage, if it's a danger to your children crossing the road or something like that, if it's taking the light out of your kitchen because it's very close to your house, then yes, do something about it. But if it's unobtrusively just trying to find somewhere to park because it's so difficult in this day and age, I wouldn't be malicious of intent.
Now, this is from a young and upcoming journalist called Matt. He says, how can I get recognised as a football writer and get into the industry?
Very difficult these days because so many people go and get media degrees at college and all that kind of stuff. Look, the only way you open doors is to kick them down in our business. What you need to do is, and it's the easiest thing in the world these days with modern communications, is write stuff and send it to people who are in the business and hope that somebody takes note.
OK. Stuart says, what drink would best go with a nutritious meal of fish finger pyramid, tinned peas and oven chips?
Pinot Grigio wine, without a shadow of a doubt.
Kai says this, if Porky could put one thing in room 101, what would it be?
If put one thing in room 101.
One thing in room 101, you know, the place where you put
but
stuff
is that the thing that frightens you, or is it
Well, it can be things you don't like.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be things that frighten you. I mean, it's been adapted from the Orwell thing
I know, but
into a TV show.
But surely, if somebody's trying to frighten me, they put something in room 101. I don't select what goes in 101, do I?
Well, no, you select the things you don't like to go in room 101. For example, like you don't like people, you don't like babies who cry a lot.
Yeah, well,
no,
I just find them mildly irritating. But I love children. I wouldn't do anything to damage them. I suppose what I would put in 101 is a collection of evil cats that were, plotting against me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. How about this one? Since it's St. David's Day today, how about a quiz on something to do with Wales? Test Porky on his forefather's homeland, says Demarcus.
Yeah, I'm not altogether against that, except that the problem is I don't speak Welsh, and a lot of Wales is sort of talked about in Welsh language. Places like, Bethy Coed.
Well, when was that? We were here last Friday. Was there not there was a problem on the rail line between Blaenau Festiniog?
Yeah, Blaenau Festiniog, I know well. Bethy Coed, all that kind of stuff. Just strange. Pencoeth and all that kind of stuff. Llangollen. All that kind of stuff. So it's a non-starter, I'm afraid, because of the language. The one thing I never wanted to do was be posted to the mould office of the Chester Chronicle because it was in Wales.
Mouldy old dough.
Yeah.
Final question from Luke. What's the worst hangover you've ever had and what is the best cure? That's from Luke and Nikki.
I'll be perfectly honest, I don't really suffer from hangovers. I don't drink as much these days as I used to when I was younger. But when I was younger, I, like a lot of people in my profession, I had a capacity to drink endlessly through the night and then into the next morning and didn't ever really suffer hangovers. I can't remember having a major hangover, to be honest. And I'm not saying that boastfully. It was just the metabolic makeup of my body until my heart exploded.
And you haven't really got advice on a cure for it? Because some people do suffer from it.
Well, to be honest, I can't even remember what I would do for a cure. I tell you what I think I do remember, whenever I felt that I'd overdone it and I was physically completely knackered, was to get up, get in the shower, and get on with life. That's the only way I could get over a hangover. If you suddenly said...
Full English breakfast seems to do
not even that for me. But if you said to yourself, I can't do it today, I've got to get back to bed, worst possible thing, then your hangover lasts 2 or 3 days. Just get on with life. Get on and do the things you've got to do, and you'll soon forget about it.
There we are. That was Ask Porky.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Parry. They'll be same again, not this time next week, but probably the week after, because I'll be away next week. But lots more to come next on TalkSport.
The two mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Hey there, Georgie girl, swinging down the street so fancy-free. Nobody you meet could ever see the loneliness there inside you. Hey there, Georgie girl, why do all the boys just pass you by?
Now, I've been a bit remiss, I must say, because I got a lovely note from Richard, who's one of our Twitter followers, from, I think it was Sunday. and he's down in the West Country, and he said, could you please wish a happy birthday to my daughter Amelia, who's going to be 7 on the show. He's offered to send you the £10 to cover the announcement, but of course we don't actually charge for birthday shout-outs.
No, of course we don't. This is Amelia, is it?
It's Amelia who's 7, and she was 7, I believe, either on Monday or Tuesday, so it's now Wednesday, so apologies for being a bit late, Richard, but we never got around to it. It was all a bit of a flutter last night with the car problems.
It certainly was. I'll give Amelia a quick line, shall I?
Yeah, go on.
Amelia, you're 7 today. Happy birthday, my dear.
That's Cecilia, isn't it?
Yes.
That's very good.
Yes.
Not badly improvised. Now, how about this from World Traveller? Porky said, sometimes I stop bladderation from Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
Porky, can you please be more specific and tell us the minutes?
Yes, that's very kind. It's like that famous George Best quote, wasn't it? You know, I did once give up drink and women. It was the worst 20 minutes of my life.
Yes, indeed. How about this from Steve? He says, I think I heard Porky pay a compliment to MG.
Yeah.
I may buy a lottery ticket this week.
Yeah, good idea.
Here's one from Kevin. Porky, you're a plank. Barry Hearn sold Orient nearly 2 years ago.
I know.
That's why they are in this position.
No, it's not. And although he sold it 2 years ago, my understanding is he still has some financial. He still offers financial support, or certainly offers support to the club. And anyway, to say that we're not, before Barry Hearn got involved with the club, it would have gone bankrupt years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, presumably this all happened over the business of the London Stadium, didn't it? Because he wanted Orient to be able to play there.
Yes.
And when that looked like it wasn't going to be possible, he was going to try and all kinds of legal disputes.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was very clear that Orient were never going to be allowed in.
Look, the biggest problem Orient have got is the same problem lots of small clubs have that live in the shadow of big clubs. Not enough people go to watch them.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you've got gigantic London clubs around you, and West Ham's probably the closest, isn't it? Spurs isn't very far away.
Right.
Then, you know, you're going to struggle in the same way as Tranmere Rovers and Chester and Rochdale and Stockport County all do.
And to be honest, if you were with a very, very low attendance in the London Stadium, it would be a pretty awful place to play football.
Yeah, it would.
Because it would be kind of cavernous and echoey and vast.
It'd be like that daft situation that went on for 30 or 40 years in Scotland when Queen's Park played at Hampden, didn't they?
Well, that was one of the first football matches I ever went to.
Is that right?
They didn't open the terraces; they only opened the seats.
Is that
so
right?
So you just sat in the seats because they knew they could. I mean, in those days, Hampden held about 100,000 people.
That's right, it did,
because of all the sort of the big banks of terraces,
and no roof and all that.
So you didn't. So you couldn't. They didn't open that part. You just sat in the.
That's right.
You know, in the stands.
Yeah.
Here's one from Leon who says, "Being so cheerful keeps Porky going. Losing limbs at theme parks. Oh my God."
Well, I'm sorry, but that did happen, and it was a question I was asked.
To be fair, I think the guy's question was not so much, do you think my daughter will be hideously scarred for life?
No.
I think it was more about, should I be the guy that takes 10-year-olds to a theme park?
Yeah, but surely part of the consideration's got to be the safety record of the place you're going to.
It is, but I think most parents...
you've got to be a responsible parent in that respect.
Most parents would not like to think about that. I mean, I, for one, would not take my kids to a place like that.
No, exactly.
But that's just my thing.
For what reasons?
Because of the safety reasons.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because my concerns are that they're not necessarily
in that case, it would have been,
as well looked after as they should be.
It would have been remiss of me not to have mentioned it, wouldn't it?
Indeed, it would have been.
Yeah.
Now, Rod Stewart's Sailing, says David, is a Sutherland Brothers song. Now, you were asking about Sutherland Brothers and Quiver.
Is it? I didn't know that.
They're quite a well-known songwriting duo.
Yes.
Scottish guys.
Yes.
And, but they also have put a few good songs of their own out there.
Yeah, have they? Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, quite enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, listen.
Now, we haven't got much time. We haven't mentioned Sir Philip Green yet, really, have we?
No, we should have a word about that, shouldn't we?
Now, the various papers' treatment of this story is interesting. I mean, the Mirror, who are obviously on the side of the Labour Party, have said that he's basically paid 363 million quid to keep his knighthood.
Yes.
So is that the price of a knighthood, is more or less what they're asking?
Yes.
Is it that important for him to have a knighthood? Is that why he's done it?
Well, I'm looking at the Times version because the Times, of course, is the Thunderer, the paper record and all that. They even their headline doesn't make out this to be a sort of a charity or a generous gesture. It says, Green made to pay up in biggest ever pension deal. Billionaire uses $363 million to bail out BHS staff. They say the pensions regulator has secured its biggest payout by forcing Sir Philip Green to pump up to $363 million into the VHS pension scheme.
But I was hearing a Labour MP on the news earlier saying that it's still not enough. and lots of people might still be worse off, which is kind of ridiculous at this point, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
You just say, well, thank goodness he's done it.
It says the retail boss, 64, agreed to dip into his multi-billion-pound personal fortune yesterday in an effort to salvage his reputation and keep his knighthood. So some of the other papers, the Mirror in particular, I think you've pointed out, say it's the cost of what does a knighthood cost these days? 363 million. So the suggestion is that he's come under enormous pressure from the authorities that
pay up, or you're going to get stripped of it.
Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, surely a guy who's as wealthy as him couldn't care less whether he's got a knighthood, but maybe I'm wrong about that, and maybe to him it's the most important thing that he's got.
Oh, I think it is. I think when you've got as much money as he's got, I think, you worry about your image more than you worry about your bank account.
But I mean, if the sort of the point of it is to have the knighthood, has his reputation now not been sullied enough anyway, so that wherever he goes, people will go, oh, yeah, you're the guy that stole all the money from the pension fund and had to give it back?
Well, funny enough, one of the papers tomorrow said, pardoned, as he belatedly does the decent thing by BHS pensioners, this newspaper hereby revokes the title Sir Shifty.
Yeah.
Well done, Sir Phil. So
I think that's the right reaction.
Yeah, exactly. He'd been named by this paper as Sir Shifty Green rather than Sir Philip Green. I mean, the only thing I would say is that after all the heartache he's been through and the shocking pressure and the campaign of denigration against him and all that, why didn't he just give the 363 quid a year ago when all this started, rather than go through all the terrible campaign of abuse he's had to suffer
I suspect it was because, like many of these guys who are sort of Donald Trump-esque in the way that they run their lives, they're not used to being told what to do. They're certainly not used to caving in to pressure, and they're certainly not used to taking any advice from anyone they don't like the sound of. So he probably was in the beginning saying, you know what, they could all go and take a running jump. I'm not going to give them that money back. Why should I give them that money back? I've worked hard for it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then suddenly over time, it gets to the point where people say, well, you know what? Public pressure is coming, and the government's going to have to do something if you don't.
Yeah,
and maybe he was worried he was going to get prosecuted.
Maybe maybe he did.
Not that he necessarily did anything wrong,
or an investigation which would have destroyed his reputation as an honest businessman.
Exactly.
Two very interesting points here. The £363 million payment, according to the statement, according to the report I'm reading, is just over 10% of the Green family's fortune. It's made up of 343...
10%?
Yeah, 10%, yeah. That's
ridiculous,
I know.
Isn't it?
It's made up of £343 million to fund the new scheme and $20 million to cover expenses and other costs associated with this deal. And the other one... and this comes from a city analyst, and this is just specific detail, which is so fascinating. Early yesterday morning, so that was early Tuesday morning, Sir Philip Green arrived at the central London headquarters of his retail group Arcadia, went to his desk and made an electronic transfer of £363 million from his own personal bank account to the badly held BHS pension fund.
And it's less than he took out, actually, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, when the company was sold for £1,
yes,
my understanding is that he took a bunch of money out of the pension fund, which was in excess of 363 million.
Was it about 500 or something?
I think it was, yeah. So I'm not quite sure what's happened to the other 200 million.
Well, I don't know the details of that, to be honest, so I can't comment on that. What I do know is that several years ago he was lauded as, a genius businessman because he borrowed £1 billion to settle... purchase and all debts on his companies or whatever it was. Or I think he paid himself £1 billion dividend. From his companies,
and also he paid his wife a lot of money.
And signed it all over to his.
Which a lot of people have objected to.
Signed it all over to his wife. By the way, the other night we were talking to old Breen Turner, weren't we, on his boat? Floating around the edge of Gibraltar, and
he said he enjoyed it very much.
He said he loved it. It's a 40-foot boat. He said the ceiling is 6 foot high, which we find a little difficult to believe.
Possibly so.
And he said it's got everything facility-wise you want. And then it turns out when we look back on it, it's really like a sort of floating sort of... what did we call
launch?
Well, no, it's not a launch. It's like a floating. What do you call those?
A narrowboat.
Like a little floating
bed.
Like
the narrowboat. Well, I mean, it's a 40-foot boat. It's not tiny, but it won't be massive.
No, but just to compare it to Sir Philip Green's boat, which of course has like 8 decks.
It's got a helicopter deck.
It's got a helicopter deck. It's got I think it's 10 staterooms, each have got an ensuite bathroom.
Well,
like
it's the
that
kind of thing
stuff.
you see in Porto Banús.
Of course it is, yeah, where Breen Turner used to live.
Yeah.
And there is a marked difference between the world's most expensive, or one of the world's most expensive, private yachts that Sir Philip Green spends a lot of time on. Paul Breen Turner's leaky little boat, which is,
Well, although it is a sailing boat, so, I mean, if you're a purist, you'd rather be on Paul Breen Turner's boat than you would on Sir Philip Green's.
Well, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't, because you're not a purist.
Anybody in the right mind would,
You're
to be
not a
honest.
purist. You
No.
would like to be the guy sitting in his sort of third hot tub from the left.
No.
With a couple of busty lovelies.
No.
Yeah, you would.
Busty
Glass of
lovelies.
Bucks Fizz in hand.
Great, no problem at all, but I'd rather be sitting in the lounge sipping a nice cool glass of Pinot Grigio and surveying the horizon.
Really?
Yes.
The Greek islands. How's your planning going for Greece, by the way?
Very well.
Is it all sorted?
All sorted.
You're not worried about the strikes?
Well, of course I am. But you see that the British Airways regained its title this week as Britain's favourite brand name.
Did they?
Yep, they did.
From which company had it stolen from?
Apple.
It was Apple, yeah.
But Apple didn't lose the title. They now share it with British Airways.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Excellent stuff. Well, we're nearly out of time, I think. So,
Yeah, okay.
That's the end of the show. Coming up tomorrow, it's Porky Vision, of course.
Yeah.
The Broadchurch May figure. Hopefully not the ending, or what's going to happen.
We've got a bit of work to do on the website now, haven't we?
We have indeed.
Yeah.
We've got lots to do. Don't forget, go and look at that, 2mics.co.uk. Loads of fun to be had. This is TalkSport.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the Two Mics. We'll get on to him in a minute. I want to know what you're going to give up for Lent. It's
I'm not
the
going to
start
give up
of
anything
Lent.
for Lent.
Why?
Because I don't give up things for Lent.
What about giving up smoking?
Well, I'm going to give up smoking anyway.
Are you? When is this going to start?
News to you. I'm thinking of giving it up when I return from the United States.
Okay, and absolutely, or just cutting down, or
No,
what?
completely.
And how will your desire for the tobacco fix cope with that?
I'm going to take up crack instead.
Look at the light!
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
The reason I ask is because a colleague of mine told me that the Prime Minister,
Theresa May,
has given up salt and vinegar crisps.
Oh, I saw that,
for Lent. Right.
Yeah, is she Catholic? I don't think she is she?
No, she's diabetic apparently, and so
I didn't know that was a religion.
Well, no, it's not.